And a good Tuesday morning, everybody. Ben and Woods is on the air. And yes, it is not Stephen Woods opening the show, which means,
oh boy,
for a certain segment of the audience, today's show will be quite listenable. Woodsy, where is Woodsy today? Oh, yes, Woodsy is taking his son, Bo, to his first day of kindergarten, which I think is fantastic.
It's a big day.
Yeah, Paul Reindl is our executive producer. He's sitting beside me. It's just the two of us in the studio this morning. And this has always been, from the moment I have met him, when he was the father of just a 2-month-old.
If that.
And he's always made it a priority to see these milestones. First day of preschools, first day of kindergartens. He committed. He never wants to miss the first day. And kindergarten is a huge first day for any child moving to the main school, no longer preschool anymore. It's it's not quite, the rigorous academic side of schooling yet, but it's a big day when you send your firstborn off to kindergarten. He wanted to be there this morning. So that's where he is right now. And I give him all the applause in the world for being the dad that he wants to be. That's a priority.
I think I did 1 year of preschool, and then that just felt kind of like daycare, if I could remember correctly. Kindergarten, though, I went to a K through 6 elementary school, so that was you went to recess with the 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
it was a big deal.
Preschool, you're there with the preschoolers. I went to a Montessori preschool, which I guess was supposed to be a little more academically rigorous for the children. I remember doing a lot of counting.
All about it.
1 to 100. I remember the counting board in preschool, but you were just there with the preschoolers. And when you move up to the big school, mine was K through 6 as well, and you're on the same playground as the first and second and third and fourth and fifth and even those sixth graders who were on the other side of the school, but you knew they were there. I mean, they were all in the same building, in the same yard, and you could see them. It was quite the step up. And yep. I remember personally, I was very nervous. Well, I tended to be a nervous child. Let's just get that out there right away.
That is shocking.
I know you're not that surprised, but I would stress out about a lot of things when I was a kid.
What did you possibly have to stress out about?
I really didn't, but the first day of school every single year was always really nerve-wracking. And it's funny because I went to a year-round school, so we didn't have the traditional summer break growing up in Encinitas. I would finish 1 grade on June 29th, and then we'd have the weekend, and then I come back on July 2nd, and that would be the first day of school, or maybe after the 4th of July, but it would be no more than a week at most. And then you just be, and we were on track. So I'd move up with the entire same group of kids almost every time. So there really wasn't that much different. It was just a different room and a different teacher as you moved up. Yet I would be very nervous. I got to get to know a new teacher. This is going to be a completely different year and feeling for me. And I remember I would stress out a lot about it.
I loved move up day or whatever we called it. I loved it.
Really?
Yes. I mean, you were getting promoted to the next grade, and it didn't really mean much, going from second to third grade to fourth grade. Really, until at my school, like I said, it was K through 6. So until you were a 6th grader, it didn't really mean squat. But I remember we would get let's say we're going from 4th to 5th grade. We'd be in our 4th grade class, and we would find out who our teacher was going to be in 5th grade. And you knew who the teachers were. You didn't know much about them.
Right.
But maybe you had friends that were a grade older or something. You're like, oh, please, not so-and-so, not so-and-so. Yes. And then you walked into that classroom for an hour, maybe, on the last week of school, got to see who your classmates were going to be for the next year. Then you were gone for 3 months, and you never thought about them again until September.
I like that you had a good attitude about it. I think, though, that my first day jitters were always colored by my very first day of school. And
kindergarten?
Yeah, kindergarten at Parkdale Lane Elementary School in Encinitas. Still exists there today. In fact, I live about 3 minutes from it right now. I have not moved very far from my original elementary school. But on the very first day of school, nowadays, I mean, school buses are barely even a thing anymore. It's mostly carpools and, you find a way to get to school somehow. But back then, everybody took the bus. This always stuns me. Even on the first day of kindergarten, you're expected to get on the school bus and get there and get off and then get back on and get home. And that, I think, above all else, is what I was nervous about on the first day of kindergarten. Because, my mom or dad had always taken me to preschool, and they were always there to pick me up at the end of the day. And I didn't have to think about it. I just knew what was what. I knew how I was getting home. It wasn't something I was stressed about. So if you want to look at the chat, we have a picture of me on my very first day of kindergarten, waiting for the school bus to pick me up in Olivenhain, California.
Look at that.
Standing right out there on Rancho Santa Fe Road in Olivenhain, holding my brown sack lunch, wearing my striped socks and white shoes and OP shorts that are just a little bit too short, my little Izod polo shirt, ready to go for the first day of school.
There's a lot to break down here. I think the first thing that stood out to me was the sack lunch.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what was in that.
I
sack
told you
lunch.
last week that I never had a lunchbox. I always took a brown sack lunch,
which I have no problem
school.
with. I did the same. It was usually like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah, I didn't like sandwiches.
An apple or
no
a banana.
Sandwich in there. It's probably like string cheese,
some caviar,
probably an apple,
prime rib.
Brie cheese, yeah, something fancy for the kindergarten Ben. So I am there, and I look, I don't look happy exactly because I don't. I mean, what am I? 5 years old at this point?
Yeah,
I was fairly young for my grade, so I think I was 5 years old, about to turn 6 in a couple of months.
You're crying because the Aztecs were projected to finish 5th in the whatever conference they were in 1980.
Yeah. So I remember, I don't remember everything. When you're 5, you don't remember the details, but I do remember being pretty darn nervous about this. And I remember being terrified about having to get on the school bus. But, my mom was there and, going to get me on the bus. So there's not much you have to do. You get on the bus, they take you to school, everybody gets out, and you go to your class and you figure it out. And I was worried, though, about getting home. The big issue, so how does it work? How do you get home?
I thought that was insane that my kindergarten classmates took the bus.
I did too. I thought that's crazy. How's a kindergartner supposed to know how the bus works? But they all did it. So obviously there was a protocol, and I was reassured now that teachers will all make sure you get on the right bus, because I think there were like multiple buses. There wasn't just one bus. There was one that went one direction, another than one. So they'll make sure you get on the right bus. And then I asked my mom, how do I know they won't forget to drop me off? They will stop, and I will be able to get out and, get off and go home.
You're supposed to know this is your exit.
Well, yeah, no, they said they will make sure. These are kindergarten. It's the first day of school. They will make sure they stop at your stop. You will get out. I will be waiting. It will be fine. It's just absolutely, it's not something to worry about. This has been done for, generations now, have figured out how to get off the bus on the first day of school. You're not the first to do this. So I remember being terrified all day long about that bus trip home from school on the very first day. How am I going to get home? So the final bell rings, and I don't remember much about getting on the bus or how that all worked, but I definitely got on the bus, and I was, I think, the last stop actually on the bus. It was always annoying because they'd go by my house on one direction, but you wouldn't get off on the other side of the street. You'd have to wait until it went all the way down the street and then turned around and came all the way back so I could get off on my correct side of the street, not have to walk across the busy, Rancho Santa Fe Road, which even back then was a fairly busy, trafficy road. So they didn't want you to get off early. You had to get off at the end. So I was on the bus for, 30 minutes at this point. Everyone else has gotten off, and I feel like I was the last person on the bus. And I was sitting, I'm a little guy, and I'm probably sitting near the back and quietly not saying anything because I'm terrified. I don't know the bus driver. And I don't know if they didn't see me or whatever, but they just kept on
oh my God,
going and never stopped. And and made it all the way back to I think it was the bus yard or wherever it was at the end, and there I was still on the bus, just sitting there, not having gotten off.
Front of the bus, back of the bus,
just I think
middle.
kind of back middle-ish. Like I don't know if they didn't see me or what, but I was, I think maybe most bus drivers would say, I wasn't hiding, but I was too scared to like speak up or say anything, and I didn't know what to do. Like, what's the protocol? You can't just go up to the bus driver in the middle of the ride and the bus is moving and say, stop.
Sure you can.
I guess you could. Now I, learned later in life, but I didn't get off the bus and I didn't know what to do. I got there and I was not at home and I was not, my parents go, where is he? You've lost my child on the first day of school. So pretty much every day after that, I was terrified of the bus and school, and it took me a very long time to actually get comfortable with the whole school process.
I was never a kid that took the bus. I lived very close to school, so once I was old enough, I would just walk to elementary school. My mom was cool with that. Before that, I guess I don't know how parents do it, with working during the day, and she just figured it out. She was there to drop me off and pick me up every day. But then, like I said, I was able to walk to school. The bus, I only took the bus for field trips, or like on an early release day, if I was going over to a friend's house to play and they took the bus, I felt really cool. I'm like, whoa, I get to ride the bus and get off on a strange exit. And go to my
the
friend's
bus
house.
is a place where bullying would take place as well. And it was just, I don't know. I never had a really good bus experience. It was not fun for me to ride on the school bus. Yes, absolutely.
Like more than
what are you surprised? I'm still bullied today. Nothing's changed, Paul.
Yes, you work with your bully.
I work next to my bullies all the time in the morning. Nothing has changed in 42 years since I was a kindergartner. I'm curious. I can't be the only one who had kind of a nightmarish first day of school experience, whether it was kindergarten or some other grade. And I was wondering, to make me feel better, if the tier ones wouldn't mind sharing their nightmare bad first day of school stories.
I like that.
If you want to do it on our YouTube chat, if you want to tweet me at Ben Higgins SD or at Ben and Woods, or if you want to call us 833-288-0973, I will feel better. I don't know that Woods will, as he's sending off Bo to kindergarten today, but the last thing he wants to hear is about nightmare first day of school stories this morning. But he's not here, so he doesn't get a say in it of what we're going to talk about today. So if you want to join us, call in.
I think he's listening right now.
I think probably. This is, when you start getting ready for school, the getting ready process in the morning, the breakfast, you turn something on, and why wouldn't it be this show if you're at home today? So 833-288-0973 if you want to share and make me feel better about my traumatic first day of kindergarten. Hopefully Bo has a perfect first day. Bo is going to be, he's already going to be the big man on campus the second he arrives.
He's going to be
He's got a swagger that, let's just say, I did not have, as you saw in my first day of kindergarten, that Bo with his hair and his popularity, no chance that I think he's going to have a great day of school today.
No, I'm very excited for him. I'm excited for Woods and Hannah and the whole family. It's a big day.
So share your stories. We'll get to some of those coming up. Of course, we will talk about last night's Padres loss to the Baltimore Orioles. Just such a typical game for your San Diego Padres. We've got some interesting comments later on from one Austin Hedges talking about one Eric Hosmer on the Chris Rose podcast. If you missed that, should be a good show today. Jake Mintz from Cespedes Family Barbecue will join us. It's a grand old Monday, even though it is Tuesday. I better
grand old Tuesday.
Put on my hat for a grand old Monday here. I'll do that in a second. And then Jesse Agler, voice of the Padres, will join us, and we'll do some Incorporator as we do each and every Tuesday, coming up at 8:35. Daily Ditty is up next. I've got the choice today. It is bands that you thought you were going to hate and you ended up really liking. Woods' theme this week, but my selection coming up next. Glad to have all the tier ones with us. It is a grand old Monday, Tuesday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station. Let's get our first check of traffic with Kelly Danik here on 97.3 The Fan. We'll be right back.
I love this pick.
I'm almost afraid to pick it because I know how much Woods loves Jason Isbell, and I do too. But because I've picked it, I also have to admit that when I first heard about him, and my wife was a fan, I assumed I was going to absolutely hate his music because he's nothing like the kind of songs that I like. Yacht rock and 80s, Duran Duran and synthesizers and first wave, and
It's very much
it's
not that.
It's not that at all. It's folky. It's got a little bit of a twang. It is generally the style of music that I associate with, put me to sleep. Can't really stand it at all. Never get into it. I now, after having seen him in concert more than once, I think he's fantastic. I really do. I enjoy so many of his songs, including this one, which is Dreamsicle, from Jason Isbell. Fantastic songwriter, singer, performer, person, just an all-around good person. Just makes me happy whenever I hear him. Now, his content and his lyrics can be very deep, and a lot of struggle and pain, and he obviously had his own demons, and trying to stay clean and sober, difficult for him, and not a ton of stuff that I relate to personally, but still makes for really good music, really good songs that he writes. So
this style of music, this folky country style, I mean, you're telling a story, and he tells a story as good as anyone.
He does. He's
100%.
Fantastic. But in the beginning, I thought, oh, God, we're going to go see this show.
There's no way this
I'm going to hate this. This is not going to be my jam, as Woodsy would say, at all. Woods' theme this week, he is, if you missed it, he is taking Bo to his first day of kindergarten this morning. And if you've got any stories of nightmare first days like I had, 833-288-0973. Hopefully he has a very good day, though. Paul tweets in, says, I hope at the Stephen Woods cherishes this special day today. Believe me, your kids grow up in barely the blink of an eye. My two sons, who I well recall being in nursery and junior school, etc., now 22 and 18. Yeah, I've got a 20 and an 18-year-old, and I still remember taking him to school, kindergarten. We could walk most days because we were pretty close, and I was lucky, I obviously 5 years ago, we started this morning show, all of us together. And I didn't get to be there, at the end of high school in the mornings for the boys. But for the most part, growing up, I was there in the mornings and could take them to school the majority of days. Now I wasn't there after school, and Shelly had to pick them up, and was there for all those days because I was at Channel 10 in the afternoons most of the time. But in the mornings, I got to be there a lot and take them to school. So I don't begrudge Woods the chance to do that, at least on the first day today. So I'm glad that he took that time and is out there today.
Now, Grizz fan says, question, how many of you had search and rescue called in on your first day of school? Pretty sure that's a common experience for everyone. Sounds like there is a story there.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, unless someone called in search and rescue to find me from not getting on the bus.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Or getting off the bus.
I don't remember search and rescue being called in on the first day of kindergarten.
I hope not. Oh my goodness, that would be a nightmare.
What was your favorite first day of school? Do you have one? Like what grade?
So
high school,
sixth
middle
grade
school?
Was my favorite first day. And it is simply because there was nothing different for me about sixth grade. My fifth and sixth grade teachers were like co-teachers. So we had those classrooms that had like a divider in the middle, but it could open up. And in those two classrooms, they kept it open most of the time and taught everything together. So my fifth grade teacher, I would already did a lot with my sixth grade teacher, and I was simply like crossing over to the other side of the room. So nothing really changed, and I already knew everybody. And I'm a big man on campus. There's no one who's older than you, at least my elementary school when I was in sixth grade. So you feel like, okay, it's not getting any better than this. Seventh grade, new school district. We moved and didn't know anybody. That was terrifying for me. High school, going to Torrey Pines as a ninth grader was, I mean, I went from a school with like 50 people in a class to Torrey Pines had like 2,000 people. That was nerve-wracking to get started. So by the time I got to senior year of high school, that was pretty good too, coming back and seeing everybody that year and looking forward to that year a lot. But sixth grade was definitely the easiest for me because it was the least stressful. I was the least nervous about it. Let's see. Anyone? 833-288-0973. Mark's calling in. Mark, do you have a first day of school story to share with us?
Yeah, dropping off my daughter at TK up in it's called Chaparral Elementary. Just, watching all the little kids come together, first time at school ever. My wife and I, we were able to walk up like you folks. We're close to school. And we have met some great friends at Rancho Bernardo, and we're still friends now. And she is entering her 5th grade year now. So she's getting out of elementary school this year. And I know it's going to be a tearjerker when it's done.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to cherish all the moments. And I feel like we did, yet you still get to this point where did the time go? You look back and you once had little kids and now you got big giant kids and you wonder, where did the time go? It goes so fast, Paulie. And I know Woodsy's going to feel that in a couple of years as well. Like, how did Bo become a 6th grader? How did Bo get in high school? And it's going to be like the blink of an eye. It's going to be gone.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Let's see. Mike's calling in too. Let's see if he's got anything for us. Good morning, Mike.
Hey guys, I don't have a first day story, but I just came back from Jersey. I celebrated my 50th year class reunion night, class of 1973.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Had a big turnout, had about 50 people, which surprised the hell out of me.
That is actually impressive. I don't go to any of my reunions. I've maybe it's because I didn't love going to school that much because I was always nervous about it, but I'm glad. That's pretty good turnout for 50 years. Well,
see, I miss the 10-year reunion. I had less than zero interest in going to that.
Yeah, I went to my 10-year high school reunion and it's like, I don't need to do this again. I like overpriced dinner with people that I haven't seen in a long time and didn't really have anything in common with anymore.
I said I would consider going if I had a smoking hot wife and a cool job to brag about. And I had a pretty cool job, but I think our show, my 10-year reunion, we were just starting, maybe hadn't even started yet. So I wasn't super proud about that. And I hadn't met Megan yet. Like if the 10-year reunion was now, I'd probably go and brag and you show off a little bit.
Yeah, because
everybody that I went to school with, I talked to the 4 or 5 people that I would still want to even have a conversation with. Like I still talk to those guys. Everybody else wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
Have no interest in going back. And
never mind.
Oh, cool. How's it working at Target? Yeah, it's great. Cool.
All right.
Same job since 16 years old, huh?
If you want to keep contributing, you absolutely can. Just tweet us at Ben and Woods or get on our YouTube chat. And if you've got a story, you can share it. Otherwise, going to have to talk about this Padres team at some point. Although I don't have a ton to say about last night's game. Honestly,
let's just
Padres were beat probably by a better team. We will get to our Padres wrap-up. I did find it interesting that the Padres made a roster move yesterday, and it did not involve Matt Carpenter. We had a discussion yesterday, and all of a sudden I saw everybody chiming in. I think we kind of kicked off some debate about Matt Carpenter and what's going on behind the scenes. So I want to revisit that a little bit coming up as well. Don't forget, all guests on Ben and Woods appear on the Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. We'll be back. More Ben and Woods and Paul on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Cars.com. Whether you're looking for the perfect summer road trip car or something you can zip around in, visit Cars.com today. They have over 2 million cars for your 2 million summer possibilities. Head to Cars.com. Check out the possibilities. Cars.com. Where to next? Why is it that when Woods takes a day off to take his son to kindergarten, everyone's like, good for you, Woodsy. I mean, that's the important stuff. When I take a day off to go to Hawaii for the 5th time, everyone's like, "Oh, there's Ben on vacation again." I mean, this is a vacation day for Woods.
Spending time with his
PTO.
children.
I was with my children on the trip,
just making memory.
I was making
forever.
memories for forever on the trip.
He didn't hop on a plane
Okay,
to go to dinner in New York.
He didn't hop on a plane to go to dinner in New York.
In North Carolina.
Whatever. Fine. Vacation Woodsy is out today. Let's be fair. Let's call a spade a spade. Woodsy is taking probably the same amount of vacation now that I have this year. Keep it fair is all I'm saying. Padres made a move before the game yesterday, which kind of explained at least one thing. We had stopped seeing Ji-Man Choi, who was acquired at the trade deadline to be your left-handed designated hitting option against right-handed starting pitching. And you hadn't seen him in the last few days, even though there had been right-handers on the mound. The Padres had used Jose Azocar and Garrett Cooper.
We were going insane texting each other like, what the hell?
Why have they stopped using Ji-Man Choi? I know he didn't have a hit with the Padres, but he did have 3 or 4 walks and had scored a couple of runs. And I mean, that's why you got him. You're already not using the other left-hander on your bench, Matt Carpenter. So now you're not using Ji-Man Choi either. What is going on? Well, we got a little light on the situation before the game yesterday when Ji-Man Choi was placed on the 10-day injured list with a rib cage strain. And Ben Gamble, who they acquired in a deal for cash earlier, about a month ago, and has been down at AAA and was called up to take his spot on the roster. Now, they needed to clear a 40-man roster spot, which I thought, well, this is finally curtains for Matt Carpenter. I mean, it's one thing taxing a 26th man on the 26-man roster, but hey, if you drop someone from the 40, you might need to waive a player that you don't want to get rid of. But no, they just transferred Drew Carlton to the 60-day injured list, which did open up the 40-man roster spot for Ben Gamble. So Matt Carpenter remains on the team, on the 26-man roster. Ben Gamble did not play yesterday. The Padres didn't use any of their reserves off the bench, just the 9 starters in their 4-1 loss. We'll talk about that in a second. But Matt Carpenter is still on this team and still remains unused since July 24th. That is now...
That's shocking.
It's August 15th. So that is now a full 3+ weeks since he last appeared in a game, but has been taking up a roster spot.
Not a pinch hit, nothing.
And
defensive replacement, nothing. Just has not seen the field in over 3 weeks.
Yep. And it has led to a lot of questions, and people around town are certainly discussing what is going on. This is weird at this point. This is a strange situation, and I don't disagree. It is a weird situation. I said yesterday, there must be some thought that they know that Matt Carpenter is not a useful, effective player right now. He was hitting 130 or something in his last, month or two before they stopped using him. But they also have him signed for next year, and not at a nothing price, like $6 million for next season. And if you DFA him now, you lose him. You can't keep him in the offseason. He doesn't come back for you next year. If he does, something does click in the offseason where he's hitting at spring training, he could sign with another team. He could sign with the Giants next year and hit 25 home runs against you while you're paying him $6 million. So I get that prospect is unappealing. At the very least, bring him back at spring training next year. And if he doesn't show any signs of having, figured it out by that point, you can just DFA him then and say, hey, we gave it every shot we've got, and it's just not working out. But it's still a long way to go before that contract is over. It's a year and another 2 months before that contract is over, and you wouldn't want to see him picked up somewhere else and starting to produce.
I think you take your chances on a 38-year-old Matt Carpenter figuring it out somewhere else.
You do if you've got if you've got a great option just sitting there waiting to
How
help
about
you
just
out.
an option?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, just an option. That's all they have is just a pinch running
I
option.
mean, right now he's providing as much use as you or I would to the team.
But
he's not playing.
In the era of the designated hitter now, there's a lot of games like yesterday. There was no pinch hitters. There was no pinch runners. They didn't use anybody off the bench yesterday. So it wasn't as though, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're down to our last pinch hitter. Now, if this was still the National League game with pitchers hitting and pinch hitters and you go extra innings and you run a bench, you can't afford to have a useless player on the roster. But nowadays, with the DH, it's not quite as big of a deal. I know Woodsy.
No, I disagree. I think it's still a big deal. Your championship teams don't waste roster spots. And that's the difference between where the Padres want to be and where they are.
Charlie Culberson of the Braves this year, I think, went 2 months and appeared in one game, and they're a championship-looking team. And they have pretty much have wasted one roster spot for 2 months of the season. I mean, I'm not trying to defend necessarily the Padres' decision-making here, but I'm just trying to figure out what else makes sense. Woodsy brought up, I think, a very valid, at least logical argument that, AJ Preller really wants Matt Carpenter to succeed. He signed him. He's paying the money to Matt Carpenter, and he doesn't want to admit a mistake in this case, an expensive $12 million mistake. So it's like, we're not getting rid of him. We're leaving him on the roster. Bob Melvin, being the guy who's in charge of, the game every day, is basically saying, I can't use him, though. He's not only was he not effective, now he's rusty and there's nothing we can do with him. So they've kind of hit a standoff. What I don't think is the case. I don't think that Bob Melvin is trying to make a point to anyone. He is a former player. I'm sure Bob Melvin, and we've heard him speaking about Matt Carpenter as well. Did he talk pregame about Matt Carpenter?
He did.
Can you call that up a little bit? Because he knows what a tough situation this is for Matt Carpenter. I mean, Bob Melvin was a backup for a lot of his career. Now, he was a catcher, so he probably got in at least a couple times a week, but he knows this is tough for Matt Carpenter sitting on the bench. He's not trying to make things hard for Matt Carpenter. He's trying to win ball games right now, and at this point, it's hard to trust Matt Carpenter with an at-bat, so I think he must feel bad about it. Here's what Bob had to say about Matt Carpenter pregame yesterday.
Well, it's tough getting him in there right now, and the longer he's out, the tougher it is. But right now, he continues to be the pro that he is, and guys, go to him for knowledge, and he's all in as far as the team goes. So, maybe with Choi out, if we can get him some at bats here and there, maybe that he can be a productive guy for us still. But he still works his butt off and is big in our clubhouse right now.
Doesn't sound like someone who's mad about having to taxi Matt Carpenter on his roster.
That sounded like a very political, diplomatic way of saying, yeah, I agree with Woods and what he said yesterday. That sounds to me, I hear Bob Melvin there and I go, he has no intention of playing him. He doesn't know why he's on this roster either. What are we doing here?
You got some thoughts? You can join us. Tweet us at Ben and Woods. You can call 833-288-0973. We're going to check traffic. When we come back, we'll do a quick Padres wrap-up of yesterday's games. Not a lot of highlights, obviously, in a 4-1 loss, and share some thoughts next year on 97.3 The Fan.
Kia of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto family. Here's Kelly Tannick.
Just one problem, crashed the clearing stage on southbound 163 right before Friars Road. Everything else around the county looking pretty quiet so far. I'm Kelly Danik with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's a shame if they lose.
You can visit Pity City, but you can't live there.
Oh, it's been a great day today. Can't wait for more.
Hey guys, it's Woodsy live from the Crapper again.
Did you miss any of the Padres game yesterday?
Cancel the parade. That's why you play the games.
Oh, God, here we go.
It's the Padres Wrap-Up with Ben and Woods.
Slam Diego? More like fail Diego.
Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino, fun above all else. On 97.3 The Fan.
I just felt the way that the roster is built, they would have to outscore their opponents to win.
Here's the 1-2. That's hit in the air deep towards the right field corner. Fernando's backing up. He's on the warning track. at the wall, gonna go into the Petco porch. A moonshot down the right field line for O'Hearn, and it just sort of dropped down in the first row behind that yellow line. 1-0 Baltimore in the second. And the first pitch curve hit in the air down the left field line. Long run, Soto back towards the corner, won't get there. Hicks and Westberg have scored. Rutschman's on his way, he will score. A bases clearing double for Gunnar Henderson. And a 4-0 Baltimore lead in the fifth. 0-2. Here's the pitch to Urias. Swing and a miss. 95-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone. And major league strikeout. Number 1,919 for Yu Darvish. The most ever by a Japanese-born player in the bigs. Swings at the first pitch, sends it in the air to deep center. Mullins goes back. He's going to watch. It's going to go. A long home run to center field for Garrett Cooper. His first is a Padre. And they're on the board here. One pitch into the sixth inning against Grayson Rodriguez. And Manny swings, hits it on the ground at third. Short hop stop. Urias to second one. Westberg's turn to first is in time. And a double play to end the game. For the third time tonight, the Padres ground into a DP, and that is that.
Obviously, the ball down the left field line was the one that kind of made his day, but I don't know if it's a horrible pitch. Give their guy credit, stand inside it, hit it down the left field line. Wasn't hit particularly hard. It was placed well, and that was basically, other than the homer, all he gave up. So it was efficient in his pitches, only walked one guy. The line probably doesn't suggest how well he pitched.
Yeah, Padres lose for the 7th time in 8 games and have put so much distance now between themselves and the rest of the wild card chase that it is becoming increasingly obvious, if it wasn't already, that they're not going to be able to make that up and go to the playoffs. Now they need something miraculous. It's one thing to hold out hope for a team to go on a bit of a run and win 10 out of 12 games at some point, even though they haven't done anything like that all season.
You just are kind of middling.
Yeah, I mean,
you're able to.
Yeah, I mean, that's not ridiculous. When now you need to basically win 12 in a row to get right back into the race, which you would if you did, but that's something that happens once every decade, not once a season. I mean, yes, this Padres team should have had a couple of times this year already where they've won 9 out of 11 or 13 out of 15.
What's the best stretch this team's had all year? I mean,
that's a good question.
7 out of 10, 8 out of 10.
That's a good question. The best stretch for the Padres this year, and I can do this pretty quickly just by looking at all the greens and reds of their schedule.
It's been a pretty dismal season.
Let's see. Let's see. In the second half, the best they've done is 5 out of 6.
I mean, when we're talking about, if they could just rattle off 12 in a row now at this point, I mean, what are we talking about?
They have 3 times this year. 4 times this year, they've won 5 out of 6. Yet somehow done it without ever winning 4 in a row at any stretch of the season. But 5 out of 6 is the best they've done. If they did 5 out of 6 right now, they might get within,
3.5,
4.5 games again in the wild card race, which would be great. I mean, better than the 6.5 they're now out after the Marlins won again yesterday and retook a 1-game lead in the wild card race. And the Padres sinking even further out of contention here in this miserable season, dropping 7 games below 500 again. I mean, just even the idea that they can get back to 500 is starting to look, almost not impossible, but certainly a challenge to even. You'd have to play really good to get back to 500, and
that would be the miracle.
Guess what? 500 is not making the playoffs,
right.
and you'd have to play well to get back to 500 at this point. So, but I think last night's game is really an example of why this is going to be such a difficult team to fix in the offseason. The Orioles outplayed the Padres last night, as they've done all year long. Orioles are now 29 games above 500. Padres are 7 games below 500. Wasn't that much difference between the two teams? Would you say that in the game last night? I mean, the Orioles didn't wow you with their overwhelming talent. They simply were more timely. When they had their opportunity with the bases loaded, Gunnar Henderson, as Bob Melvin said, just dropped one down the left field line. It had an XBA of 090. I mean, wasn't hit hard, but it was timely. It was in the right place. When the Padres had runners on base, hit the ball hard 3 times. 3 of their hardest hit balls, all GIDPs. And, they both had a solo home run. Padres hit a 440-foot smash to center field by Garrett Cooper. That counts for 1 run. So did the Ryan O'Hearn 343-foot bloop home run to the Petco porch. Yeah, one's way more impressive. The Padres have more impressive players, but the Baltimore Orioles have done
it's football season already.
It is. They've done a vastly superior job of turning that production into wins. So what you need to figure out in the offseason for the Padres is how do you take these guys and turn your production into wins and not just production?
I think the Orioles are going to be a fascinating case study for the Padres as a franchise to compare themselves to. And when the Padres sit down and AJ and Peter and the whole crew get together to evaluate their season, you look at what the Orioles have done. What's their record? They are 74-45.
Correct.
A lot of homegrown talent. This has been a process that they have been putting together for 5, 6, 7, 8 years now, I think, in Baltimore. But when you look at the rosters and you look at the superstars and the amount of talent that you have secured here in San Diego, how is a team with mostly unknown players, young players, players still establishing their MLB careers, how have they been so vastly superior to your roster?
What is the difference?
All season long. Not for a stretch, not for a month, all season long.
That's the question that I think will plague the Padres this offseason. We'll continue to discuss it. When we come back, a chance to qualify for Las Vegas. Joss from down the hall, always fun when she comes by, is going to fill in for Woods on Take on Woods. Get to that coming up next on 97.3 The Fan. Paulie, if I remember correctly, I think Woodsy said that they're going at 7 a.m. to take Bo. So if they are if they're currently in the car,
it's time.
Getting out for kindergarten. Bo, have a great first day of school.
Have fun, Bo. Love you, buddy.
You're going to be great. Way better than your Uncle Ben was back on his first day of kindergarten. You're going to kill it. No doubt about it. Woods, Hannah, best of luck to you. It's always difficult to let them go again, send them out into the world and let them become the little people that they're going to be. It's Ben and Paul this morning on 97.3 The Fan. We're going to play Take on Woods without Woods coming up. Our friend Joss from down the hall is going to join us. She always brings a ton of energy to this game. And she's, by the way, not a pushover. She's pretty good. I wouldn't say she's as tough as Woods to beat, though, or tie. So
if I had to guess, however many appearances she's had, let's call it 10.
Yeah.
I'd say she's about 500.
Yeah, about 500. Which,
you got a chance.
Woods' bats around 85-90% on his wins, so you definitely have a chance, but she's no slouch.
It's all going to come down to the category, I think.
It does. Now, she gets the category. She's not Woods, so she gets to know the category. That does even things out a little bit for her. But if you want to join us, get in early for Take on Joss, you can get in the queue now, 833-288-0973. Of course, you win or tie. You qualify for a 2-night trip to Las Vegas. Our drawing coming up here at the end of the month in a couple of weeks. A couple of more thoughts from last night's game before we get to that, Paulie. There was one moment that fully encapsulated the San Diego Padres season last night. You have any idea what that moment was? I thought it was a perfect metaphor for the 2023 San Diego Padres.
I'm blanking.
I believe it was Juan Soto's third at-bat last night. Fouled one off. Bounced off the plate. Right back into his gentleman. It looked incredibly painful.
Yep.
It's embarrassing. And it was a perfect microcosm of what this season has felt like for all of us. It's just been a straight punch to the groin for Padres fans this season.
That was...
Did not wish that on anyone, especially Juan Soto, who's had the most productive season of anyone.
Right. That was tough to watch.
For a guy who was already, obviously, has been in a lot of pain this season with his finger. I mean, he takes some of those swings that look agonizing where he drops the bat and you go, this guy's going on the injured list for sure. And then he picks up the bat and, wraps out a single or something, 35 seconds later after the trainer comes out. And we don't know what some of these guys have been dealing with and going through over the course of the season. I will give them credit. They never make excuses with injuries. At most you get, no one's 100% at this time of the year. We saw Fernando icing his shoulder the other day, said, it's sore, it's a surgically repaired shoulder. What are you going to do? Manny has dealt with many injuries. He's always out there. I don't think that's the reason why the Padres have struggled. It's not because they're playing through too many injuries, but they absolutely are playing through bumps and bruises, and just add another one.
Every team is
to Juan Soto's ledger for this season right there.
Every team's banged up at this time of year. Nobody's 100% healthy. Nobody's 100% fresh. So that you can't use that as an excuse. That Soto thing. As soon as it happened, I had an idea. I was like, ooh, I think that got him there. And then they showed the replay. I think I closed my eyes about halfway through. As soon as that ball hit the dirt and I saw the angle it was going back at.
Orioles announcer Kevin Brown.
This was great.
He of the famous suspension that everyone has been talking about and is back now in the Orioles booth. I thought he handled it extremely well last night. He said, one replay and one replay only.
That's it.
That's all.
That's all we need.
You don't need to show this from multiple angles. We don't need extra replays of what happened to Juan Soto. Couple other thoughts before we get to Take on Woods. Crowd last night, 38,176. A very representative, impressive crowd for a mid-August Monday for a team that is currently 6.5 games out in the wild card race. However, it was notable in that it wasn't a sellout. It was the first time in 26 games, ended a 25-game sellout streak for the San Diego Padres. They had about a couple thousand unsold tickets for the game last night. Inevitable, of course, as you stretch on in a season of disappointment, that it is going to become a little tougher to fill the seats. Now, You go to a team like the Miami Marlins, and they are currently holding a wild card spot. They have been one of the absolute pleasant surprises in Major League Baseball. 38,176, I believe, would be by far their biggest crowd of the year if they got that. They don't even sniff that on a weekend Saturday night in Miami. So I tip my cap once again to Padres fans, how you continue to represent. Even though you didn't sell out the game last night, there's nothing to sneeze at with 38,176. Padres have gotten plenty of support, but I did think it was notable that the 25-game sellout streak came to an end. Yeah. You, Darvish, you heard in the recap in our last segment, Milestone had his 1,919th strikeout, which passed Hideo Nomo for most strikeouts by a Japanese-born player. We got that one again?
0-2. Here's the pitch to Urias. Swing and a miss. 95-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone, and Major League strikeout. Number 1,919 for you, Darvish, the most ever by a Japanese-born player in the bigs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, throwing another, 1,000 or so in Japan. He's had an incredible career. Hideo Nomo, who works for the Padres, was in attendance, which was cool as well for the moment. And by the way, you, Darvish, well, he I guess he got outpitched by Grayson Rodriguez. Didn't have a bad game at all. I thought he looked pretty sharp. Yeah, he got the bases loaded that one time, and as Jesse pointed out, the breaking ball that he hit, or Bob Melvin pointed out, it wasn't a bad pitch. It was low on the outside corner. The guy stuck his bat out and floated one down the line. It wasn't a bad pitch. Yu Darvish didn't pitch poorly. He just got outpitched, and the Padres could not come up with enough offense to support him.
Darvish pitched great.
The case so often.
He absolutely pitched worthy of a win, and we just were never really in contention last night.
I see Josh standing by. Come on in for a second, and let's get to our game. Let's play Take on Josh today. Before we bring in our contestant, let's bring in our guest competitor today. Hello, Josh. Is his microphone?
Wait, do I turn? Okay.
There we go.
I forgot that there was that little intro there. That's hilarious. Thank you. I feel so at home.
Do you have to wait for Rob to turn on your microphone, or do you get control of it in your own studio?
I have to wait for him to turn it on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he turns it on. I mean, I have the little thing, but he always turns it on.
For those who don't know, Rob and Josh, who work down the hallway at Kixie, they are not just radio co-hosts.
No.
They are a married couple.
We're a married couple, yeah.
Now, I know if I was hosting with my wife, she would get to control all the buttons. You let him control the buttons?
Isn't that wrong?
That is weird.
But I do all the social media.
Okay.
And I edit stuff.
Okay, well, that's fair.
So look at me.
I think you should get to control the buttons,
I'm going to control it all, baby.
You should.
Hey, by the way, you look fantastic.
Thank you very much.
I just can't get over it. I'm just staring at you.
Fatloss.com.
Keep it in your pants, Josh.
Baby. Say hi to Joe. Joe, good morning to you. You are a contestant today on Take on Joss.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Joe. All right, so Joss, I'm going to ask you to step outside again.
All right, here we go.
Make sure you can't hear anything. Go to your soundproof booth or wherever you need to go while Joe gets to play his 5 questions. Then we'll bring you back in for your portion of the game. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, not as well as it would have been if we had won last night.
Yeah,
you everything you guys do.
All right, here's what you're playing for. 2-night stay at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino. 2 tickets to Kool and the Gang. Get your own tickets at Ticketmaster.com and check out the new $70 million room renovations at the Westgate, home of legendary Vegas fun. You just have to beat or tie Joss to qualify. And here are your categories this morning. We've got Will Wonders Never Cease? The word wonder, the key on all of those. Song title crawl, which is each title of the song, the last word will be the first word of the next title, something new. And away game, those are 5 song titles that all end with the word away. So, Joe, of those 3, Will Wonders Never Cease, song title crawl, or away game? What would you like to play?
Let's do away game.
Away game. All right, going with the new category today. I think that's fair. 60 seconds to answer as many as you can. You don't know one, say pass. We'll come back to it if there's time left on the clock. Our first question, the 2-second song, you need to give me both the title and the artist after Paulie plays the music to score the point. Joe, are you ready to play?
As ready as I'll ever be.
60 seconds on the clock. Your time begins when Paul plays the music in the category away game. Good luck, Joe. Let's take on Joss.
Take my breath away. I don't know
pass on that. Maybe you'll think of it. Lyrically, Styx moves from a boat to a starship in which 1977 progressive rock classic with a 3-word title.
Pass.
Lenny Kravitz might make you feel like going on vacation when he sings which 1998 tune that stands as one of his biggest hits.
I Want to Get Away.
Ooh, which 1991 single from the Red Hot Chili Peppers features a frantic guitar riff that explores themes of altruism and selflessness?
Give it away.
Correct. The Chicks were inspired by those old Calgon bath commercials when they wrote which 1999 hit with a country twist?
Pass.
Go back to the 2-second song. You got the title. Who's the band?
Berlin.
Yes.
Berlin.
All right. Yeah, you snuck it in.
Give it to him.
All right, that's 2. You got Give It Away and Take My Breath Away by Berlin. Styx is Come Sail Away. It's Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz, not I Want to Get Away. I know you knew the song.
He says that, right?
I want to get away. I want to fly away. I'll hold Joss to the same. And then the Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks, Cowboy, Take Me Away. All right, Joe, hang on the line. We'll see if your score holds up against Joss. She does get the category, unlike Woods. He has an extra degree of difficulty where he doesn't get the category, but you do. Today's category, Joss, is away game. You'll have 5 song titles that all end with the word away.
Oh, my Lord.
You
Okay.
get 60 seconds. You can say pass if you don't know it. We'll come back if there's time left on the clock. First question's the 2-second song.
You got this.
Paulie plays the music. You need to give me the title and the artist, remember, on the song. And then we'll go from there. You ready?
Okay, wait, and then I can say pass on the
You
other
can
ones,
say
but
pass
come
on
back.
anything.
Okay.
And you can come back to anything. You can always say pass. We'll come back if there's time.
Okay.
All right, 60 seconds on the clock. Your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck, Joss. Let's take on Joe.
Take My Breath Away by Berlin.
Correct. Lyrically, Styx moves from a boat to a starship in which 1977 progressive rock classic with a 3-word title.
Come Sail Away.
Correct. Lenny Kravitz might make you feel like going on vacation when he sings which 1998 tune that stands as one of his biggest hits.
Oh, I know this song. Fly Away?
Yes. Which 1991 single from the Red Hot Chili Peppers features a frantic guitar riff but explores themes of altruism and selflessness.
And it ends with away? Give it away, give it away. There we go.
The Chicks were inspired by those old Calgon bath commercials when they wrote which 1999 hit with a country twist.
Cowboy, Take Me Away.
Yes, it ain't perfect. 5 for
What?
Look at
That was all 5? I've never gotten
You
all
did
5.
it, and you win today's game, Joe. Thank you for playing. But Joss, the champion today, gets all 5 correct. Well done
I
today.
can't
And it's
believe
been a while since you've played too.
It's been a while since I played, and I don't think I've ever gotten all 5, and I've been playing on and off for like 2 years. And then thank you for picking songs that I've played before on the radio.
Joe picked the category,
Well,
so
thanks,
Joe. He took a try on a away game.
Thanks, Joe. You don't get to go to Vegas now because of Joss.
What?
He can try
Ew.
again. He can
Sorry,
try again
Joe.
this month. That's okay. But
Okay.
thanks, Joss. Congratulations.
Well, guys, thanks. You're
Well
my
done.
favorite.
You're my favorite.
All right. See you guys later.
Love the
What's
energy.
cooking on Kixie this morning?
What's
the hot story of the day? What are we doing?
Okay, we're talking about
The
how
hosts are fighting about who controls the buttons.
That's exactly
now.
that's
We've had
exactly.
So Woods is in here. It's first day of kindergarten for
Oh,
his
yeah.
5-year-old.
Oh.
So that's been our theme of the morning because we don't want to talk about the Padres because they.
No, you got to do what you got to do.
I did not get off the bus on my first day of kindergarten. I was terrified, and the bus driver didn't let me off, and I ended up back at the bus yard at the end of the day. I was traumatized forever.
That is the
My
greatest
first day of school.
story.
Oh, it's
There
the
is
worst story ever.
There's no story like that could top the one that you just
This
told
is,
regarding
This
kindergarten.
is, by the way, this was me on my first day of kindergarten, Encinitas, 1981. Right there in my OP shorts and my Izod shirt and my striped socks and white shoes with my sack lunch waiting for the bus in the morning that wouldn't drop me off in the afternoon.
This is like, first of all, your mama dressed you really nice. My mom dressed me like a dork. You looked really,
that's
you looked
not dorky.
snazzy in
That's
your
not
outfit.
the dorkiest outfit.
If that's not dorky, what the hell was?
Look
dorky?
at the
I don't think I wore my first T-shirt at school until high school.
What were you like, Fraser and Niles
Yes,
or
I
something?
was very much Niles Crane growing
Gosh,
up.
with your briefcase. Well, you were. I think you were adorable.
Thank you, Joss.
Oh, look at the little dork left on the school bus.
Have a good morning.
Well, thanks,
Say hi to
guys.
Rob over there.
Ooh.
Tell him you get to push the buttons from now on. You did a good job here.
Thank you. Love you guys.
We're going to come back with Don't Do This is coming up next here on Ben and Woods. Let's see. I got a couple of things to get to, including I thought was one of my favorite sports movies has been ruined forever and ever and ever. I can never watch this movie again. I now hate this movie.
One of your favorite
I
sports
liked
movies?
it. I thought it was really good.
I mean, I'm not just saying that because of the news yesterday.
You didn't like it. Did you not? I thought it was good.
Okay.
Well, I hate it now. We'll get to that coming up next after a check of traffic. Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
Just saw one of my favorite things I've ever seen in our YouTube chat. Our boy Matthew says, big ups to anyone who can work together as a couple. If you're just tuning in, we had Joss from Kixie playing Take on Joss this morning. And yes, her and Rob and Joss, they are not just radio co-hosts, they are a married couple. And I think that's really cool and admirable how they can make that work. And
I'm
Matthew,
worried that Woods is going to make us get married in some bit at some point, so we can also be a married couple.
I could see that happening.
I can see that happening, actually.
So Matthew says, big ups to anyone who can work together as a couple. And he follows that up with, my ex-wife worked with me for about 2 weeks before I fired her.
Shocker.
Sounds like there's a story there that I would love to hear about.
Yeah, no, I mean, they seem very functional, and they seem to get along great. Now they're at work, so probably on their best behavior, but you're with anybody that many hours a day. I mean, working closely, very closely. Like if I had to go home to Woods every day, it would not be pretty scene. I could not handle
the
it.
show.
I can do
dinner.
I can do the few hours a day we're together, but if then we had to go home, and what are we gonna have for dinner tonight?
You're driving into work
Who's
together.
gonna take the kids to school? Who's gonna do? That would be torture, actually. Sorry, Woods. That would be torture if I had to live with Woods 24/7 and work with him all the time. That would be a don't do this. In fact, as we get to don't do this, we got Jake Mintz from Cespedes Family Barbecue coming up in just a few minutes. I will get us started, though, with this story that came out yesterday. You remember the movie The Blind Side with
Sandra Bullock.
Tim McGraw, the parents from Tennessee who adopted Michael Orr, who became outside the left tackle for the Baltimore Ravens, and
that adoption being questioned by the NCAA.
Yes.
What were their motives?
Yeah, were they trying?
Why did this rich family?
The movie, of course, makes them seem like just the most altruistic people. All they wanted to do was help this kid and, give him an opportunity and make him a real part of their family and adopt him, make him his brother to their own kids and help him get off to a good start and get to college. The homeless
as long
kid.
as he went to Ole Miss, which is where they were big boosters and alum.
Yes, but the reality seems to be much different because yesterday the story came out that now retired NFL star Michael Orr, whose supposed adoption out of poverty by a wealthy white family from the movie The Blind Side, he petitioned a Tennessee court with allegations that, well, the main element of the story was a complete lie concocted by the family to enrich itself at his expense. It says they never actually adopted him. He says they tricked him into signing a document that made him a conservator. So essentially they would have all financial control over, the money he made. And he said he didn't get a dollar from the movie, that they made millions and millions of dollars, including like 2% of the $300 million that the movie netted, plus millions up front, and that he got nothing from that. The Tuohys, which is their Leanne and Sean Tuohy, they kept all of that money out of Michael's hands, and he is suing to get back his own financial control of his life and saying that he was never adopted. They thought that he was signing adoption papers, and he was really signing these conservatorship papers. If this is proven to be true, and it would be weird if it wasn't, and he was just making this all up after the fact, it turns what was really, I thought, a feel-good, pretty cool movie into something that can never be watched again. I mean, something that has to be canceled immediately, right?
I would say so.
You can't play that again, knowing that this family is taking advantage of Michael Orr all these years, and this movie continues to paint them as the most noble,
it's a complete sham.
Family full of hearts, and it's a complete sham,
Southern
according to Michael Orr. Yeah.
The conservatorship, I think, is the biggest thing.
It's gross. This whole thing is gross.
That's horrible. I was reading Darren Ravel wrote about that. He said The Blind Side had a budget of $30 million and grossed $300 million at the box office. Based on standard cut, movie netted roughly $175 million. It was a major success. The Tuohy children reportedly got $225,000 plus 2.5% of net proceeds. which equaled out to $4.6 million each for the children.
Right.
Sandra Bullock was paid $5 million, and I don't have a problem with that. She's a working
No,
actress.
that's not
top of her field.
No, I'm talking about the family.
But
that's
the fact
fine.
that Michael Orr, he didn't make a dime.
Now, the family should make some money, and it's their story as well. But no more or less than Michael Orr should have been getting, and he should get control over his own money, correct?
100%,
Right.
especially money that he makes in the NFL. That has nothing to do with them.
Absolutely. So one of the more disturbing stories I've seen recently.
Well, very disturbing story from over the weekend. We talked about it yesterday and everything going on with shortstop Wander Franco, and he was placed on the restricted list. I think when we last spoke with you and don't do this yesterday, the only update we had was that he did not travel with the team, and that certainly raises a lot of red flags. What's going on? And now he's been placed on the restricted list, and I did not see if he's officially getting paid or not paid. I know I read in most cases those players are not paid.
Okay.
But yeah, basically he is not with the team in any capacity right now while the team and Major League Baseball launches this investigation into. There were social media posts that surfaced over the weekend that alleged an inappropriate relationship with a minor.
Yeah, that's definitely being widely reported as now at least what they're looking into. Yesterday, I think it was so new and fresh, didn't want to start getting into anything specific, but it is definitely something to do with a potential relationship with a minor. Now, Wander was 22, and what you're hearing is the girl in question 14. So it's not, I mean, if he was 20 and the girl was 17 or 16, not great, but not as 22, 14 though is something that needs to be investigated, to be sure.
In a statement, the team said the Tampa Bay Rays and Wander Franco have mutually agreed that he will go on the restricted list and take leave from the club for the duration of the current road trip.
All right, finally a little do this for Tuesday.
DD mega do.
I love when people take out of the box solutions to a problem that everyone's thrown their hands up essentially and said, we don't know how to fix it. The problem is in the NFL, especially minority coaches getting an opportunity to rise up and become head coaches. I mean, we've seen this for many, many years where, guys have not had a chance to become a head coach. And oftentimes the excuse is, well, they don't have the experience, blah, 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 yada, 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 whatever it is. And no one has ever really come up with a solution. They've had the Rooney Rule. They make, you have to interview minority candidates, but so often it ends up being, yeah, we already know who we're going to hire, and then we just have to interview a couple of people. I mean, Eric Bieniemy's been on probably 30 head coaching interviews without getting an opportunity. So credit to Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, for doing something about it. This weekend, Mike Vrabel decided, hey, this is a preseason game. He just decided, I'm going to hand over the keys to the head coaching kingdom for one, 48-hour period to my assistant head coach, Terrell Williams. And starting on Thursday of last week, before their preseason game against the Bears, he said, you're now the head coach. And he stepped aside and he let Williams handle the media responsibilities, the game planning, everything, all the way through the coaching, the sidelines with the headset and everything. So he could actually get some hands-on experience of what it feels like to be a head coach in a obviously a low-stakes environment of a preseason game. But, it's a dress rehearsal for the season, so it's everything you need to do to be a head coach. I think, and a lot of people are agreeing, this should be something that every team is doing with their assistant coaches at least once during the preseason. Give your top assistant who hasn't been a head coach before an opportunity to step in and get some experience as a head coach in a football game.
I love it.
It was a fantastic idea. Hats off to Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans for a big do this on a Tuesday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
I'm curious to hear if there were any do or don't do this moments from Jordan Schusterman's wedding over the weekend. That's why we have delayed our Cespedes Family Barbecue segment by a day. They all needed some time to recover. Even Jake, who was just there in the wedding. He is going to be with us, though, next. We'll talk about some of the other big stories in baseball as well. with our weekly Grand Ole Cespedes Family Barbecue segment next on 97.3 The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Cars.com. Whether you're looking for the perfect summer road trip car or something you can zip around in, visit Cars.com today. They have over 2 million cars for your 2 million summer possibilities. Head to Cars.com. Check out the possibilities. Cars.com. Where to next? Well, where we head next is to Jake from Cespedes Family Barbecue, who is a day late and hopefully now recovered from Jordan's wedding over the weekend. I can't wait to get some details. We will get to all of that coming up after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. All right, let's go out to our premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline, and he looks not too much worse for the wear. It is a grand old Monday on a Tuesday here as Jake Mintz joins us from Cespedes Family Barbecue. No Woods this morning, Jake. He's taken his kindergartner to the first day of school, which got me and Paul. It's good to see you, man. And yeah, how was the wedding? Ooh, silence. I see him talking, though, so obviously that's an audio issue that Paulie's going to correct, and we'll just go check, 1, 2, check, 1, 2, audio testing, 1, 2, 3, until we get going here. Paulie is baffled at the moment. He is figuring it out. He's frantically pressing buttons, try to figure out what's going on, yet we can't hear Jake. Or maybe he screamed and shouted so much at the wedding that he's got complete laryngitis. Oh, there you are. Hi, Jake. Good morning.
Hey, you're never going to believe who showed up at the wedding.
Okay.
The Padres offense with runners in scoring position.
Really? They showed up?
Yeah, that's where they've been all year.
They were, yes. Were they dancing around the dance floor and, stopping by the buffet and getting some wedding cake at the end?
I think, yeah, that's what's been going on. They're just wedding goers, not hitters. That's the problem. The wedding was great, man.
Good.
It's cool to see your best friend get married.
I mean, it is fun. It's been a while for me. All my friends got married like 10, 15 years ago. So I guess I'm getting too old for weddings. You go kind of in a lull. You have a real run of weddings, and then you go like 10, 15 years where it's pretty rare. And then it's like the kids and their generation start getting married, and you go on another run that I'm probably going to have in the next, 10 to 15 years again.
Yeah, weddings are like ball players. You peak age 26 to 30.
Yeah.
And then it's all downhill from there.
So you bring up a huge point, and this series between the Padres and the Orioles is fascinating to me because the numbers behind the numbers for these two teams are almost identical. OPS, batting average, runs scored, ERA, runs allowed, run differential. I mean, the numbers say that these are two very equivalent teams. One of them is 29 games above 500. The other is 7 games below 500. It's almost mind-boggling, but the big difference, as you alluded to it, is the Orioles come through in the clutch, like they did again last night with a bases-loaded double. The Padres, meanwhile, when they get runners on, they, hit hot smash double plays like they did last night.
That's it. It's really not that much more complicated than that. Sometimes you're the bug, baby, and sometimes you are the windshield. And the Padres have been the bug all season long. I think the other notable difference between these two teams, and we saw it last night, the Orioles bullpen does not mess around.
Yeah.
It is a dynamite group. The Padres have good relievers, but they do not have anything remotely close to the depth. And, Felix Bautista, I know he was a little shaky last night. I don't know how much you've watched him this year, but you see that man throw a baseball and it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's like trying to hit it, drop down an elevator shaft. The O's are real. The O's are a really, really good baseball team. I'm skeptical if they have enough pitching to do the thing in October, but everything else is legit.
As for the Padres, I think our last couple of appearances have been generally positive, optimistic, feeling like things are turning around. After this last week, it feels pretty much over for this team. They're now 6.5 games down in a wild card race. They need like a 10-game winning streak or a 14 out of 15 stretch to really get back into contention. And when a team has never won 4 in a row all season long, it would be foolish to start thinking it's going to happen. So I want to turn my attention and get your kind of outside eyes on this, Jake, because I don't know what AJ Preller, if he's still the GM this offseason, I don't really know what he can do to fix the San Diego Padres this offseason as well. It's not like an obvious one problem. I mean, yeah, you can always improve the bullpen, or you can add to the depth, or try someone else a designated hitter, but does that solve all the issues, or can you just magically hope that everything's different next year and you start hitting with runners in scoring position and clutch players turn clutch again?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think if the Padres run this exact team back next year, people will be infuriated.
Yeah, of course.
But I think if the Padres run this exact same team back next year, they make the playoffs. And so that's a very bizarre reality. I think, how does he improve this team? It's got to be a bunch of savvy, short-term signings for veterans, bounce-back candidates from other teams. Those are the areas where they have not succeeded, right? And that is exactly what they need to bounce back next season. Now, the one thing I want to say from a fandom perspective for the rest of this year, you know when like you're downloading something on your computer or your phone and you're staring at it and it's just not moving, it's not going any faster?
Yes.
And so you trick yourself. You go into the other room and you're like, oh, maybe when I come back, I'm not going to look at it. Maybe when I come back, it'll be good. That's how Padres fans need to handle the rest of the season. Okay? Go in the other room. Just go look at it. Just don't look at it for a little bit. And if you come back and they're 4 games out, that's fine. But for the next couple of weeks, maybe go for a hike or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I get it. I'm never going to say that I can stop watching games, because I can't. I will watch tonight. I will watch tomorrow. I always do. But for your sanity, I certainly see the argument.
To be clear, I'm not talking about watching.
Yeah.
I guess I'm talking about investment.
Watch.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. There's a difference between, keeping track and watching. And if you've got tickets, I mean, I'm not going to miss a chance to go to Petco Park, but to get your actual, hopes up, I think I've stopped doing that as well. I don't watch the game going, this is going to be the day they turn it around. This is going to be the day they cut into the wild card lead. I just watch and see what happens and, add to my overall stock of evaluation of the team.
Absolutely. That's a great way to think about it.
All right. And there are some other teams that are
29.
There are 29 other teams, and a lot of them are making things interesting. Especially in the National League. This wild card race, I mean, the Marlins, I thought were going to crash and burn, but they're holding on by the skin of their teeth right now to that last wild card spot. The Giants have all of a sudden hit a downturn, and, I mean, this is going to get very interesting at the end. I wish the Padres could get to be a part of it, because it doesn't look like anyone wants to really run away with things. I mean, the Phillies maybe are going to be okay, but after that, I mean, you got a free-for-all for these last couple of playoff spots.
All of these teams are good, and none of them are great.
Yep.
And that makes the Padres' mediocrity all the more infuriating, because you take a look, it's like they should be able to be better than the Reds and the Marlins, even the Diamondbacks, right? They're just so much more talented. I've been impressed by Miami's ability to right the ship. Like you said, I thought they were going to tumble off a cliff, and that was going to be it for them. Sandy Alcantara has really picked it up. They called Yuri Perez the young beanpole back up in their rotation he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, but they're just limiting his innings. And then Luis Arraez, he's so good, man. He just collects base hits. And then the team that I'm really interested in is the Cubs, because from a run differential perspective, they're in the same boat with the Padres, where they've been either unlucky or underperforming based upon how many runs they've scored as a team. And I think them keeping it together at the deadline was a real boon for them. I really like that squad. I think Justin Steele is a legit ace, and they can make some noise if they go into October.
Right now, the ESPN has it almost as a toss-up between the Marlins and the Cubs at right around 53-54% to get that last playoff spot. And then it's the Reds at 23%, Padres 17%, Diamondbacks even lower. Even though the Diamondbacks are 3 games ahead, the Padres actually have a better chance according to ESPN. So it's going to be an interesting,
Raise the banner.
Interesting,
Raise the banner,
yeah,
baby.
interesting.
Let's go.
They got the 17% banner right now.
Playoff odds on August 15th.
Now, I think it's been pretty much conventional wisdom. We're talking to Jake Mintz from Cespedes Family Barbecue here on 97.3 The Fan. The Braves are the team to beat in the National League and have been all season. They've looked a little more human lately. They're still unbelievable offense, but the Dodgers are starting to get a little bit healthier. Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, they say, back in September. Blake Trinan back in their bullpen. How much of a threat do you think the Dodgers now are to the Braves in the National League?
They're a threat, but they're not close, in my opinion. The Dodgers, even with Kershaw back and Buehler imminent, the Braves just got Max Fried back. And so the Braves in a playoff series can run Fried, Strider, Morton out there as a 1-2-3. That is pretty good. And I think better than what the Dodgers can do. Julio Urias has been worse this season. He's been a little unlucky in his contract year. And I know the Dodgers, whenever you watch them, and you folks know this better than anybody else, they feel inevitable. Victory for them, especially when they're at home, feels, an inning away at all times. That being said, I think the Braves offense is a joke. The only person giving Ronald Acuna Jr. a run for his money in the NL MVP, in my opinion, is Matt Olson, who is now up to 43 home runs and has an OPS well over 1,000. It is a deep lineup. It is a scary lineup. They have two catchers who are probably both two of the top 5 catchers in baseball. This Braves team is a juggernaut, and I would be very afraid of them if I was playing in October. And they're not going to be intimidated by the Dodgers, right? Like, all the guys on that team have been there before, and they've beaten the Dodgers in the playoffs, and they won't blink if they go toe-to-toe with them in the CS.
It's exactly what we expected from the San Diego Padres offense this year. Like a couple of 40-plus home run hitters, multiple MVP candidates, deep, just putting up all kinds of runs every single night. But it's been the Braves who have done that in reality. In the American League, Jake, I'm going to go to the other side of the coin. Yankees have lost 3 in a row. They're almost dropped back to 500, and they look almost as out of it as the San Diego Padres now in a playoff race. What kind of reckoning is coming up for that team? Or with the new, gentler Steinbrenner leadership, is it going to be less of a reaction than you would have expected under George's tenure?
That has been the defining feature of the Cashman, Steinbrenner, Hal Steinbrenner era under Aaron Boone too, right? They do not overreact to stuff. They stay the course. That can be seen as stubbornness and staticness and, and a lack of desire to make changes when needed. But at the same time, that's their thought process. We're going to stay the course. We believe in our group, yada, yada, yada. And that works when you're good. And this year, they are not good. And so that faith feels empty and it feels detached from reality. Every time Aaron Boone says something along the lines of, we love our group, we just got to start playing better. The closer we get to the end of the season, the more you are what your record says you are. And so now that they are 60-59, 1 game over 500, the New York Yankees are 1 game over 500 on August 15th, those sound like empty promises. They have not finished under 500. The franchise has not finished under 500 since 1992. I was born in 1995. I've never seen the Yankees finish under 500. And I think they are definitely in danger of having that happen this year.
It's interesting because when you look at the teams that spent the most in free agency this offseason, Yankees re-signing Judge, the Mets, obviously, the Padres, Trey Turner going to the Phillies. They've been all right, but for a team that went to the World Series, they certainly haven't gotten better. The
New York Mets, my friend.
Yeah, the teams that spent the most have really all disappointed, essentially, this season. Is there something to that? Is free agency a sham now? I can't imagine that it is. But
I was told the New York media is so tough and that they should. Yeah. That leads to wins.
Yeah, soft San Diego media is why Padres are not doing so well, but the Mets can't even fall back on that excuse.
As a New York media resident, my demanding ruthlessness around the teams is what pushes them to greatness because it is about me. It's always about me. That's what New York's about. It's about us. Here's my answer to the question about free agency. When you participate in free agency, you tend to sign what? Older players.
True.
Older players have a tendency to break down and miss time with injury more than younger players. And when your roster construction is dependent on older players and you don't have a level behind that group, there is a situation where those guys get hurt, you're really in trouble. I don't think free agency is inherently bad. I think free agency by itself is flawed. If you're reliant on that to build your team, you're going to end up with a lot of guys hurt. I think a good example this year of a team that's done it well is Texas, right? The Rangers did a lot in free agency and they lost Jacob deGrom, right? Like right away. And they've still been outstanding.
Yeah, that's a good
and that's
point.
because they have a layer of depth of young, reliable players behind that first line.
And we can't.
I think that's really important. I think it's really reductive to go out and say free agency is bad.
Yeah, well, we can't even use
Right.
that excuse for the Padres because all of their big money guys that they've signed have pretty much been healthy, throughout the year. They haven't even missed time, so they can't blame that. Jake, we're out of time. I appreciate
Hey, bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
I know you could go on forever and
Jake.
ever.
Love you,
Jake,
buddy.
thank you. Our
Very
best
quickly,
to Jordan.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Number 1 overall pick tonight in the MLB draft, Paul Skeens is making his debut in low A with
Oh,
Pittsburgh Pirates.
nice.
Recommend watching that if you don't want to watch the Padres.
All right, there's something to keep an eye on. Jake on our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. Back with more Ben and Woods. Hour number 3 next year on the Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by the Golf Mart. Thanks again to Jake Mintz from Cespedes Family Barbecue. And, of course, always brought to you on Mondays usually, Tuesdays this week by Grand Old Barbecue, North Park, Flint Springs at the ballpark. Love their stuff. Great brisket. I don't think you're going to find a better brisket in San Diego. I just saw their diners, drive-ins, and dives episode for the first time when Guy Fieri went and visited their Flint Springs location, and they made him El Borracho, which is their giant beef rib covered in like queso cheese and toppings and everything. It looked insane. I've never ordered that one, but probably on my next trip out to Grand Old Barbecue, I'm going to have to try that one. I think what Jake said at the end, our discussion about building through free agency, which clearly has not worked out so far for the San Diego Padres, is very valid, especially when you're targeting older players. However, it's not that different to sign a guy to free agency or trade for like a Mookie Betts. I mean, trade, the Dodgers signed Freddie Freeman. He's been great for them. It's not, there's nothing wrong with free agency. There have been plenty of free agents who have succeeded.
Don't let it go unnoticed that the two best players for the Dodgers were acquired via free agency.
I mean, they traded for Mookie Betts, but there's not that much of a difference between trading for an established star and signing
not homegrown is what I mean.
Not homegrown though. And at that point, you're also giving up prospects. The Padres traded for Juan Soto. They developed Fernando Tatis Jr., and they signed Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts, to long free agent deals. Now, I think the Manny deal was definitely a consideration, was how young he was when he went to free agency. He's not a guy that they would sign Manny because, he's 34 and he's had a great career, and we're going to bring him in to see if he can stretch it another couple of years. They felt Manny was entering his prime.
No, we've had plenty of those
when they signed him. Xander, a little bit older, but not super old. I mean, I think, is he 30 now, 29 when they signed him? I mean, not.
He's currently
31. What is he? I mean, he's a little bit older, and that's
he
a
turns
little more.
31 in October.
Okay, so he's 30 now. He's certainly not over the hill. By the end of the deal, absolutely. But this is the time where you shouldn't have to worry about that at all if you're the San Diego Padres. I'm wondering more, is there something just about, putting pieces together, like trying to mesh them together that's making a difference here versus a team like the Baltimore Orioles, who had a bunch of guys coming up together in the minor leagues. I have never been a big believer that it can make a huge difference in football. Yeah. In basketball, especially, the more time you play together on the court and, have a sense when you're running on offense and have to know, I need to know that when I throw this behind the back pass, I trust that guy's going to be there. Baseball is different. It's not the same. Sometimes, maybe on certain defensive elements, but Padres are great defensively. The area where it shouldn't matter at all is at the plate. When you are, whether you're a free agent, whether you came up through the minor leagues with a team, shouldn't matter one bit how you perform at the plate.
Theoretically, if the Padres went out and traded for or signed, Nathan Eovaldi, right, who's having a great year, he should be able to just come into San Diego and continue to pitch well. It has nothing to do with, I came up with this guy in San Antonio and Fort Wayne, and we're going to be better together now because of that.
Now, if there are issues in an organization with analytics, like you're not getting the right information or you're not presenting it the right way to the players to help them as much as possible, or if there are coaching issues, that certainly is sometimes a factor. And the Padres need to investigate all of that in this season. Again, I'm still a Bob Melvin fan, but I don't know about the entire organization, whether the Padres are, getting the right kind of coaching up and down. This is part of why I say they need a full-scale outside eye evaluation of the San Diego Padres this offseason, including coaching, including analytics, player development, everything. Someone that can report to Peter Seidler and give their honest opinion on the operation that AJ Preller is running as the president of baseball operations. what kind of operation is he running? Someone who doesn't have to worry about his job with AJ, that is not a yes man, that can give an honest assessment. Like, here's what you do well, here's what you do poorly, based on what I've seen around baseball, and present it, and then they're gone. They leave their, they leave the position.
Here's what I've seen work for other teams.
Here's my Mitchell report on the San Diego Padres, essentially, and then just drop it on Peter's desk and present it. And then, if AJ says, well, I don't agree with any of this, then, well, you've got a stubborn guy at the helm. If you've got, we can learn from this, we can do this better, we can do that better, then I'm okay with that. I think if you're a leader of an organization, it can't always be my way or the highway, especially when your way hasn't been working consistently. And while the Padres have had a couple of moments of fleeting success in the last few years, there hasn't been the level of consistency that you'd like to fully trust in whatever AJ's method or his strategy or his leadership style is. There remains big questions about, his continuing direction of this organization, the way he presents it. You agree with me? You are good with that?
Yes.
All right, that's fine.
Queuing something up.
That's fine. Well, I'm good. I'm glad you're queuing it up because I want to talk about leadership in particular with the San Diego Padres.
This was interesting. I was not expecting this.
So our friend Chris Rose, who has the Rotation podcast, and we have him on every couple of months or so. Always enjoy talking baseball with Chris Rose. Had a familiar face on his podcast yesterday. Austin Hedges, former Padres catcher, was his guest, and they had a long form sit down. And after 15 to 16 minutes or so, conversation turned toward leadership. And let's play this audio because it relates directly to the San Diego Padres. And I will let our listeners hear it, and then we can react to it on the other side. I think we got about 3 minutes here of Chris Rose with former Padres catcher Austin Hedges.
Who is the best player leader that you have been around, and what made them so great?
Probably Eric Hosmer.
Shocker.
Eric Hosmer is just gets it, man. It's every day is the same. He's every bit as good with the Latin guys as he is with the American guys, and I think that's just super impressive to be able to speak just enough Spanish, but go out of his way to really communicate with the Latin community, and they loved him. And when you can impact everybody in the clubhouse, not just the guys that you speak the same language as, that really goes a long way. But he could command a room. Whenever Haas spoke up, you sat up a little straighter in your seat. You're like, okay, I want to listen. This guy's got me. This guy cares about me. This guy plays every single day. So you got to be able to me, the best guys, they can command a room, and they speak you can tell, you can feel it. People listen, but also they're doing their thing behind the scenes when no one's watching, to prepare to just go be an everyday guy. And Haas was probably the best I've seen at it.
Interesting, because he was a whipping boy in San Diego.
Yeah, it's terrible how they treated him there. Absolutely terrible. They just didn't understand what they had. And if you ask any of his teammates there throughout that whole time, 100% of the ones that I've talked to would say the exact same thing I'm saying right now. And the thing that guy brought to a room, to a team, is it's worth wins. But if your OPS isn't sexy enough for some of the nerds, then you're just not a valuable player. And in my mind, Eric Hosmer is an extremely valuable player, and still is.
Do you think that bothered him a lot?
Yeah, had to as a human, and you wouldn't be able to tell. If you got to talk to him personally, I'm sure he'd be able to tell you some things. But yeah, absolutely. You couldn't tell, but when you're putting more so than baseball talent stuff out there, you're putting your heart and your soul out there, like a guy like he does, where you're truly caring about the people on the team, and you're investing into that, whether it's going good or bad for you, whether the media is treating you good or bad, all these things that are feel like a tax on you. You're the guy making all this money, and they're just wearing you out. And then you couldn't even tell with him, man. You just couldn't really tell. It was really impressive. But from a distance, every single guy that was there that was watching it happen was just like, it was disgusting. It was like, this guy doesn't deserve this. It's too bad people seem to not really know what type of value that type of guy brings.
I don't even know where to start.
That
with
I,
what
I
I just heard.
I do. I know exactly where to start. That was the Chris Rose Rotation podcast with guest Austin Hedges. Padres fans, Austin Hedges says, you hurt Eric Hosmer's feelings.
You didn't know what you had.
Boo freaking who? That you hurt.
They treated him.
You hurt Eric
horribly.
Hosmer's feelings. You ran him out of town, essentially.
They're paying him $13 million this year.
They're paying him $20 million a year for the previous 5
Right.
years.
I'm saying this year. He wasn't at spring training. He wasn't cut mid-season by the Padres. He was cut by other teams. And he's currently not employed by any teams. If he was so good, Austin Hedges, what's he doing right now?
By the way, no one is disputing. Woods didn't dispute it. I haven't disputed it. No one in the Padres clubhouse has disputed that Eric Hosmer was very well liked and thought of as a leader in the clubhouse. He was. He absolutely was.
I don't like to admit it, but yes, he was a god. He was a god amongst mere mortals.
You know how much winning that created? Almost none. 160-game season.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
He was sick for half.
You know
of it.
why the Padres had such a good record during the 60-game season? And I'll give you a hint. It wasn't Hos's likability in the clubhouse or his leadership.
Was it because they traded Austin Hedges?
It's because Eric Hosmer actually produced over those 60 games. He had an OPS over 800 for that 60-game season. He actually did it in the batter's box for one 60-game stretch of his 8 years the Padres were paying him. He played pretty well that year, and the Padres produced on the field. Fast forward to 2021. All the leadership in the world in the clubhouse couldn't prevent an epic meltdown and collapse in the second half of 2021. And then what happens in 2022? Padres are scuffling along. Man, they trade away Eric Hosmer, and they go on a run to the National League Championship Series without him in that clubhouse. All the evidence that we have amassed points to an immutable fact that no matter how good Eric Hosmer was in the clubhouse and how much his teammates liked him, he didn't help the Padres at all with his intangibles, at all. The only time he helped the Padres was when he actually produced in the batter's box, and that happened, for 2 weeks every April and 160-game season, and that was it. And when he did, Padres were pretty good. Unfortunately, for the vast majority of his time, he did not produce. He regressed defensively, and he was unwilling to make the adjustments. And this is not my analysis. I'm not qualified to say whether or not Eric Hosmer was, working on things. This is out of his own mouth. I don't think I need to change. This is who I am. This is the player I am.
Sick, bro.
This is what he said to us, that he did not need to change the player he was, despite a plummeting OPS, despite just absolutely tanking defensive metrics. Who cares if you won 4 Gold Gloves? If you can't pick a ball at first base, it's leading to tons of errors for your infielders, and you're not helping the team offensively with any power, and your OPS is sliding into the low 700s for the kind of money that you're making. That is why the Padres struggled. Not because Eric Hosmer wasn't a good leader. He always seemed like he probably was a really good leader in that clubhouse. But that is not why they're struggling this year. It's not the lack of Eric Hosmer in the Padres clubhouse. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that was that audio just stood out to me for so many different reasons. Hedges saying, his OPS wasn't high enough. And, that's the only thing that's sexy to these nerds. I'm like, bro, those nerd statistics, those advanced analytics that you're bashing are the only reason you're in the league, because people thought that, oh, look at his frame success, and how good of a defensive catcher he is. Even, he's batting 145, but look how good the defensive metrics are. That's the only reason he's in the league. And his buddy Hosmer is currently without a team in August. So I don't know what to say.
Here's what I know what to say. Padres fans, good job hurting Eric Hosmer's feelings and running him out of town, because the production that he was giving him, the team, was dragging down this franchise and this organization, and that's why AJ Preller paid to get rid of him at the trade deadline last year.
And is continuing to pay.
Let's take a time
We
out.
got one more year. Next year, they got to still pay him $13 million, and then we're off the books.
2 more years.
2 more years?
Yeah.
Jesus God.
2 more. 2024, 2025. Another $26 million after this year. Padres fans, you want to call in, react to that. 833-288-0973. Jesse Agler will join us at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to have Paulie come up with the incorporator word this week. That is all coming up.
One.
Next on Ben Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Just did a little bit of math during the break, and I calculated that Woods and I, who people are mean to all of the time, have made in the same time as Eric Hosmer exactly 0.02% as much as he's made over the same amount of time for people to be mad at him and be mean to him. So, hey, you know what? When I say it's okay that you are mean to Eric Hosmer, I wish I was paid as much as Eric Hosmer was, because you're really mean to us sometimes too. And yet we still show up every single day and we're giving it our best, and even sometimes evolving and trying to be better when we feel like we get some constructive criticism. 833-288-0973. Jesse Agler coming up in a couple of minutes here on Ben and Woods. Woodsy's taking Bo to kindergarten. And then they've got like an assembly after drop-off, so he sticks around. That's why people are going, why didn't you just race in? And we tried to actually get him to do that. And he said, no, they make us stick around on the first day for an assembly and everything. So he'll be back tomorrow morning, and he'll have some thoughts on this as well. But
the plan is for him to also call in just over an hour.
Oh, yeah, we'll get an update at 9:35 from Woods as well.
Yeah.
After the assembly is over, I'm sure he'll have stories galore. Let's get some phone calls before Jesse joins us. You just heard Austin Hedges defending Eric Hosmer on the Chris Rose podcast. Ooh. I went on a different tack. Let's go to Jason. Welcome to Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Ben and Paul this morning. Hello, Jason.
We just lost him.
We just lost Jason. All right, let's
try
Bob. Hi, Bob. We'll get you right to the front here. Good morning, Bob.
Hey, good morning. I forgot about Hosmer.
You forgot about him?
Well, blocked him out of my memory, maybe. I don't know. This just keeps pointing back to Preller. I don't think you can hang any of this stuff on Bomel the way people want to. But Preller put together these teams for the last however many years. He's overpaid for however many years and how many tens of millions of dollars. So I don't know. I've been a Padres fan since day one. I started when I was 7. I've listened to more Padre games than I can remember. I've seen more bad teams and bad games, but I've never had a season that it has irritated me as much as this one. And I think it's simply because it just feels like these guys show up, cash their check, and go home, with the exception of the starting 9, with the exception of Hassan Kim and the pitchers. And the last thing is, I'll bet right now Snell is really, really regretting that he said he wanted to stay. I bet he was wishing he was pounding on AJ's door the week before going, trade me, get me the hell out of here.
I wonder if there's any regrets of the trade deadline moves yet for the Padres, because none of the moves they've made have helped them. And as they grow closer and closer to not making the playoffs, it was a missed opportunity, obviously, to trade Josh Hader and Blake Snell before they became free agents, one they're not going to get back. So I'm sure there are going to be some regrets here at the end of this season. Bob, thank you for the phone call. As for the Hosmer, I mean, Padres fans do have to be fair. I don't believe that Eric Hosmer's leadership helped the Padres very much while he was here, but you can't go and say now the Padres are lacking a leader in that clubhouse, and that's why they're struggling now. They had a leader in the clubhouse, and it did not help them win earlier. So it's hard to then say, well, the lack of leadership right now in the Padres clubhouse is what is causing them to struggle. Well, if that's the case,
they still have Matt Carpenter. He's still on the team. Nowhere to be found, but he's still there on the roster.
You have Manny
Machado is a leader.
Xander comes with 2 rings with him to San Diego. You can't say that leadership is what's lacking for the San Diego Padres. They apparently had it. It didn't really help much during the time Hosmer was here.
Maybe the most respected manager in the game.
Yep.
There's plenty of leadership.
All over the place in that Padres clubhouse. All over the place. Does that mean that they agree with everything, that, that Manny is perfect as a clubhouse guy? I think Manny does a lot of things well, and I think he's very well respected. I also think that not going to be considered like the greatest clubhouse leader yet in history. It's something that I think he works on and has tried to be better at as his career has gone on. From everything I've heard, it is Manny's clubhouse, but he's got plenty of resources in there and veteran experienced leaders to help him. It's not as though it's a war going on in the Padres clubhouse every single day.
Right.
I don't get that sense that that's what's been happening in the Padres clubhouse. I get the sense that they're all frustrated by losing, and they all wish they could turn it around, but no one has the answers, leaders or not.
Just reading, somebody weighed in and says, absolutely weak segment talking S on someone who isn't even here anymore. Cute move, taking out frustration. Go talk about 7 Mile Casino chocolate chip pancakes. # cringe. You sound foolish. Was that a foolish segment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have brought it up this morning if Austin Hedges hadn't joined the Chris Rose podcast and basically called out Padres fans nationally. I'm defending Padres fans here today.
I agree.
You had a former player who just called out a fan base for essentially, he said, not appreciating what they had and being mean to a guy and trying to get him run out of town. And I am defending Padres fans by saying the record and the facts clearly show that whatever leadership he brought did not have a positive effect on the team in terms of wins and losses, and that his production was clearly hindering the ball club at the same time. You know, maybe if the Padres had reacted a little faster and dealt with it, the Padres fans wouldn't have gotten so frustrated in the end with Eric Hosmer. But that's not on Padres fans to hide their frustration over a clearly frustrating baseball player.
I mean, I would compare, if you were to compare Hosmer and Matt Carpenter has been a big topic of discussion here recently. Like, nobody hates Matt Carpenter that I've seen. You're frustrated with the lack of production that you've gotten from him, and you can understand that he's a well-respected veteran and he's, I guess, a clubhouse presence for the guys still. But like Hosmer and even Hedges to a degree, like they didn't garner all of this goodwill with Padres fans.
I mean, maybe Eric Hosmer could have sat around like Matt Carpenter is doing right now, but I have a feeling that wouldn't have gone so well, that Eric Hosmer would not have accepted the fact that he has to sit for 2 weeks at a time and he's not even worth a pinch hitting appearance because he's not helping the club enough. My guess is the leadership would have waned at that point, and that's why he was traded, because at that point, he was either Hosmer sitting on the bench or going somewhere else. And I don't think the Padres felt as though Hosmer sitting on the bench doing nothing was going to be good for morale and leadership within the Padres clubhouse. That's my take. I'm not putting words in anyone else's mouth. That's my reading of the situation from the trade deadline last year. All right, let's take a time out. Jesse Agler will be with us. We'll play the Incorporator. Get his measured thoughts, as they always are, on the San Diego Padres. Do that coming up next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by S.E. Johnson Raid. I'll wrap up this on the Eric Hosmer discussion because I see a lot of polarizing comments on our YouTube chat and more. Our boss Adam just came in, mentioned the simple fact that if anyone agreed with Austin Hedges and that Eric Hosmer brings so much value to a team, why has a team not gone out and signed him? He's a free agent right now. The Cubs released him at the end of May. I believe they were like 22-30 at the time they released him. Cubs have been like 12, 13 games over 500 since then. Now, I don't know that that has anything to do with Eric Hosmer, but, you know, the numbers are the numbers. And all I'm pointing out is that whatever effect he has in the clubhouse, positive or negative, and I think it's been positive, doesn't really translate to his teams on the field. Can we at least agree on that? I mean, are people going to just stick their heads in the sand, the Hosmer defenders, and say, I don't
understand how we can't all agree on that.
All I'm saying is that whatever positives he brought didn't seem to translate into wins and losses on the field, and they haven't for any team he's been on since the Royals that won the World Series, who had a lot of other good players, by the way, on that team as well. We're going to check traffic. Jesse Agler is standing by, going to join us next year on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Kia of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the premier auto family, here's Kelly Tannick.
Traffic is sponsored by 7-Eleven. Got a stalled vehicle on the Plaza Boulevard off-ramp, northbound 805. Up ahead, a collision. This is right before El Cajon Boulevard. Those vehicles are over to the right shoulder. Small cherry Slurpee drinks are only $1 at 7-Eleven. It's a drink so full of bold, fruity flavor that the amazing price is just the cherry on top. Stop into 7-Eleven to get any small Slurpee drink for $1. Slurpee, anything flows. I'm Kelly Danik with Ben and Wood, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, let's go out to our premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline, and we are joined, as we are each and every Tuesday, by the voice of the Padres, Jesse Agler. Jesse, good morning.
What am I walking into? Hosmer talk?
Yeah. Well, Austin Hedges made some comments on the Chris Rose podcast yesterday about how Padres fans didn't appreciate him and ran him out of town, and I had to defend Padres fans.
It's everybody else's fault because Hosmer doesn't have a great OPS, which is a sexy stat for those nerds out there.
I don't know. You don't need. You know what? I'm not going to make you get into the conversation if you don't want to, Jesse.
No, I'm not going to weigh in specifically on that, but I think there is something there that is worth mentioning. And this is not in defense or an attack of any of the aforementioned parties, but there is such a thing as a guy who is very popular in the clubhouse. Now, popularity doesn't necessarily mean value, right? Like, from a baseball standpoint. So, we all have people who we've worked with or been in school with or whatever it is, who we really love. We love the guy. We love the gal. They're one of our best friends. The person is very popular. Like, it's okay for a guy to be popular in a clubhouse with his teammates. It's also okay, for the people who are constructing a roster to look at it and say, you know what, it's just not a fit right now, from a business standpoint. So, I think as fans, sometimes we conflate the two, like, oh, if he's popular, therefore he's valuable. I don't know that that's always.
And the opposite is also true. There can be guys that are kind of hated, but can be incredibly valuable. I mean, take Woods, for instance. Most people hate him, and he is incredibly valuable to this radio station. It's just incredibly valuable. I don't know where we'd be without him. But most of the time, he ticks
is
people
detested
off.
by all of his teammates. Yeah. No, he's a bad teammate, kind of a bad guy. But you know what? Like you said, he brings value to the show. This is what happens when you take a day off, by the way.
I don't get it, Jesse. You go to the Odyssey break room and there's like 9 people. They're just listening and hanging on his every word. I just don't understand it.
He's
honestly, I don't even know how you guys are doing a show without him.
He's being selfish today, taking his kid to kindergarten, and I don't. Jesse, you're like me. I tend to keep the family stuff a little more private. But I want to ask you, because you got young kids too, and how do you manage it with the travel schedule that you have to do in Major League Baseball? It's not easy. I mean, you're finally home for an actual 10-day homestand. That must be, your family's like going, you're going to be home for like 10 straight nights? That's incredible. I don't think we realize enough, for players, for staff, coaches, everybody, what a grind and how difficult a Major League Baseball season can really be.
It's the only, and I even hesitate to call it negative because I love my job more than almost anything in the world, but like, it is certainly the most significant drawback of what we do. It is very, very hard. Now, if I were a single man or I didn't have kids, it would be no big deal. But you're right. With a young family in particular, you just said I'm home for 10 nights. And while technically that's true, when I get home, none of them are awake. So, it's
good point.
You're a ghost in your own house, really throughout the entire baseball season. And, I get up early with the kids when I'm in town because it's really my only opportunity to spend any kind of time with them at all. So, yeah, today was first day of school for us as well, second grade for the big guy. And, yeah, it's a very, very real challenge. I'm certainly not the most popular person in my household during the baseball season, but you do what you can. And, you make it work. This is our life. This is our profession. This is how it works. And, it's still better than most every other job I could ever imagine having. So, everybody has their own way of making it work, but there's no doubt it puts a real stress on the rest of your life, particularly, as you said, when we haven't really had anything like this all season where we're home for more than a week.
Yeah, so true. So last night, Jesse, was almost remarkable to me at least, in the fact is it was just a normal baseball game in which one team outplayed the other. There was nothing particularly heartbreaking about it. I think Darvish probably deserved a little bit better. He threw pretty well in my mind, but Padres couldn't get anything going against Grayson Rodriguez, and they got beat by a team that's just been playing better than them all season.
That is, for a normal baseball team, that's what like 30% of the games are supposed to look like. It feels like for the Padres, there's been 3 of them this year. You're supposed to lose games like that, right? You just, a good team is going to lose, how many games? 60 games in a season. Like a bunch of them are supposed to look like that, where there really isn't much to discuss. There really isn't much to break down. You put it very succinctly and accurately. Darvish probably pitched better than his line, but he made a mistake. The other guy pitched better, and that was it. That's the entire story of the game last night. It was a real deal pitcher with real deal stuff, not some random guy that nobody's ever heard of that doesn't belong in the big league. So it was odd. Certainly, I had the very same sensation as it was unfolding last night. They're like, okay, this is just a normal game, the sort of game that every team loses a bunch of times over the course of the season. It's just been an unusual thing this year that we haven't had many of those games. It seems like every win and every loss for the Padres this year has been far more dramatic than it needs to be or than it would normally be. So unfortunately, the reality of the calendar is that, you don't take any solace in losing a normal game. The Padres need to be stacking up wins here at a pace in which we haven't seen them stack wins this season. And so there's nothing really to say other than, they lost the game and you got to give it another go here tonight.
Jesse Agler is with us. And Jesse, I want to give at least some credit to the players who I know aren't 100% and really say very little about the injuries that they're dealing with. Of course, other teams are dealing with them as well, maybe some even worse than the San Diego Padres. But we saw Juan Soto endure a just incredibly painful moment last night. In addition to the hand problem that looks agonizing, Fernando Tatis Jr., icing a shoulder that's got to be extreme post-operative, got to be extremely sore. Manny's dealt with his injuries, and they don't really say much about it. But in your mind, how much of an impact do you think health has had on the San Diego Padres team, even without a ton of disabled or injured list stints?
More than any of us will ever know. But again, that's true of most every team. But with this roster being what it is, you didn't even mention, Xander's wrist, which, cost him, I think, a big chunk of productivity for a couple of months there. When you have, and top heavy is maybe overstating it, but when your roster construction is like this and you have the number of star players that you have, and you're obviously relying upon those star players to have an incredible amount of production, when those guys are dinged up and not able to produce in the way that you anticipated, that makes a pretty big difference. And I think, we're certainly seeing some of that. You're right. Players hate talking about injuries, particularly ones that aren't quite bad enough to send them to the injured list. Manny, it seems like every year has dealt with something that probably would send other people to the IL. He takes a tremendous amount of pride in being in the lineup most every day. It is, from what I've seen the last however many years now, really, really tough to get Manny out of the lineup. Almost impossible to get him on the IL. When he went to the injured list earlier this year, it was basically like, he said, I have no choice. He's like, I can't hold it back. That was it. Like, that's the kind of thing that needs to happen for Manny to go to the IL. But yeah, there's no question these guys are dealing with stuff the Soto foul ball last night. Hopefully there's no lingering issue there, although quite discomfortable or uncomfortable looking as it took place. You mentioned the finger. Fernando, you've heard a little something about a knee in recent weeks, also the shoulder. So yes, that's definitely part of what's going on right now. Michael Walker's pitching today for the first time in a month and a half. He's been on the injured list. Joe Musgrove hasn't pitched in a few weeks. Not going to see him again for another month in a best case scenario, probably. So there's no doubt. Injuries have been a part of this season, but I don't think anybody in that room would use that as an excuse as to why they are where they are.
Talking to Jesse Agler this morning on Ben and Woods, the voice of the Padres. Jesse, are you working heavy machinery?
Sorry, I'm outside of. I just grabbed a cup of coffee. In where I live, they are doing endless construction. There's like all these new neighborhoods going up, so I didn't realize it would be that loud.
That's all right. How long can a truck back up before it hits like a house or falls off a cliff or something? I mean, you can only back up so far.
It's like an excavator, and they've got this big dirt hill, and he's just going back and forth, moving earth.
We hear that stuff all the time when we have a guest who's on the go or something, and it's like it's a few seconds. It's been 10 minutes, and it's just
I'm watching him now. It's just he's back and forth. Move. Look, boys, I know you got your fancy white collar jobs where you sit inside your air conditioned studios every day, but this man is moving earth out here.
I know.
Okay? Not
all
easy.
Respect. It's more like, okay, we know he's backing up. At this point, can we have a safety issue? Safety first on the job site is what they say.
Yeah.
Last thing for me before we get to the incorporator, and Paulie's coming up with your word today to mix things
buddy.
up. The Matt Carpenter situation is undoubtedly strange. I think Bob Melvin keeps saying the right things. Matt Carpenter undoubtedly is saying the right things as he sits there. But what's been your read? Traveling with the guy and seeing him there, but not used for 3 weeks now, since July 24th. It's strange, no doubt about that.
It is strange. He has been incredible. I mean, you look up pros pro in the dictionary. This guy hasn't grumbled. He understands the big picture, right? Like this guy's been through it all in his career. So he's not angry about it. He's not upset about it. And quite frankly, from a financial standpoint, he's got no reason to be upset, right? But obviously he's a competitor. He's a baseball player. He wants to play. But I've seen, no negative anything in his body language and anything that he said. And you're right. I've seen him in hotels. I've seen him on buses. I've seen him on the airport. Like he's cool. It's a very impressive thing. Now, pulling back from how he's handling it, it's obviously, as you said, a little bit of an odd thing. And I know there's been a lot of ink spilled the last couple of days about how, they're basically playing with 25 guys instead of 26 because he hasn't been used since July 24th. I will say this, and while that's obviously factually correct, I don't know with A, DH every single game, and B, the construction of this roster, that it's really hamstringing the Padres in any way. I know that sounds weird, but like you're limited in the number of relievers you can have. So it's not like, we can't have an extra guy in the bullpen because we have Matt Carpenter on the roster. And the reality is, I don't think there's anybody in this organization right now, at AAA or wherever else, that you're going to say bring up and is going to get like a regular series of at-bats. The guys who are in the lineup are going to be the guys who are in the lineup. You got a little bit of a matchup to play maybe, when you're talking about Garrett Cooper or something like that. And now Ben Gamel, a left-handed hitter who
we may see once a week. You're right. You're
exactly.
Absolutely right, Jesse.
So it's Carpenter is not Carpenter being on the roster is not limiting them in any real way in terms of, like what Bob Melvin can do either before a game filling out a lineup card or during a game in terms of pinch hitting. Like in the pre-DH era in the National League, probably a little bit more of a thing, right? Because you're pinch hitting 3 times a night, maybe more, if you get into a long extra inning game. But now you don't have long extra inning games. You have the designated hitter. It doesn't really, I don't think, make a huge impact or any impact, quite frankly, in terms of like managing a game. You're not hitting for Manny Machado. You're not hitting for Xander Bogaerts. You're not hitting for Fernando. You're not hitting for Soto, on and on and on and on. So it just kind of is what it is. Certainly weird, certainly a little bit different. But I don't know that it's really having any kind of like, strategic impact.
Yeah. A 26-man roster is more jobs for the players union rather than to give managers the number of options they need nowadays in a DH heavy game. All right, let's get to our incorporator. Each week, Jesse gets a weird vocabulary word that he then incorporates, as it were, into that night's broadcast. I feel like Well, we've had some fun words lately. They've been just so easy for you, like chiffonade last week. You're just slicing and dicing the words. You're chiffonading them up. So Paulie, I think, is got you this week. This could be the toughest one of the season. I've got no idea how you figure this one out and make it sound natural. So if you would, our incorporator word, Paul.
Yeah, Jesse, your word today, it's a noun, and the word is snickersnee.
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 Which is a large knife, especially one used as a weapon. Snickersnee.
Sure.
I mean,
So we're cutting things back-to-back weeks. So
yeah,
last
it's
week
true.
was-
Yeah, we went from chiffonade to
You could
snickersnee.
use a snickersnee to chiffonade.
No, I'm sure you
Chiffonade,
can
sure,
throw
yeah.
it in as a metaphor anywhere, but if you don't get
Yeah.
a double take from Bob Scanlon's going to be with you again tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, if you don't get a double take, at least from Bob, when you say snickersnee, I will be. I want him to go incorporator. Like he is sitting there and he goes, "That's the incorporator, isn't it, Jesse?" See if you can
You know
get
what?
it past Bob tonight.
I'll throw out some depth charges, try and throw them off,
Yeah.
give them a couple of decoys, and then we'll try and slide it in.
I would love that. Be listening tonight, 6:40 first pitch, 5:40 pregame show, Padres and the Baltimore Orioles with the great Jesse Agler. Jesse, have a great one.
All right, be careful with your Snickersnee.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks,
You
buddy.
don't want to cut yourself with the Snickersnee. Jesse appearing on our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. Now, do we know the country of origin for Snickersnee? Sounds Australian to me.
Not.
That's not a knife. That's a Snickersnee. Snickersnee. Snickersnee? Cheers, mates. Sounds Australian. I could be wrong. That's just my reading of the situation on the incorporator word.
Suspected to be Englished from a Dutch phrase.
Dutch. Oh, I don't have a Dutch accent, I don't think, that I can go to here, Paulie. All right, we will come back. We got 1 hour left. Woodsy's going to call in, give us an update on day one of kindergarten and how it's going so far. Paulie's got some headlines in the Reindl Report, including a great fantasy football payoff last night. It's all
Yeah.
coming up. Don't go anywhere. 97.3 The Fan. We'll be right back. Final hour of Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. Got the Reindl Report coming up. Woodsy's going to check in as well. In case you were wondering whether, the Padres helped the Arizona Diamondbacks turn things around with their 2 consecutive losses in that series. Diamondbacks blew a 4-1 lead to the Rockies last night in a crushing 6-4 defeat that they can ill afford as well. I mean, there's so many teams that are just not performing well right now, Paulie. I mean, the Angels lost 12-0 to the Rangers. Now, Max Scherzer was shoving 7 innings, 1 hit. But Shohei Ohtani is at least shut down on the pitching side for a while. I mean, their season has gone down the tubes faster than the Padres.
I saw are they pushing him back just to start?
I think they're pushing him bak to start, skipping a start, something like that.
Arm fatigue.
With some fatigue. But that's a sign that they know that, like Joe Musgrove getting shut down, they know things aren't, really in the realm of possibility of turning them around. Yankees are collapsing. We talked with Jake Mintz earlier. They lost to the Braves 11-3, their 3rd straight loss, and only a game above 500 now. What was it, 1992, the last time the Yankees did not have a winning record? I was still in high school. Jake wasn't even born yet. Paulie, you were
2 years old.
You were a baby. The last time the Yankees didn't finish with a winning record. But that is certainly within the realm of possibility. Playing in that division against 4 other teams that are all fighting for a playoff spot, they're going to have a lot of tough games going forward. My expectation would be that the Yankees will finish with a losing record this season for the first time in over 30 years. So they've been struggling as well. So it's not just the Padres. I know sometimes it feels like they're the only ones, but the Giants continuing to scuffle as well. Their struggles continue. They lost to the Tampa Bay Rays last night. It's too bad the Padres haven't been able to, not even go on a run. What are they, 4-8 since the trade deadline now? I mean, if they're just 7-5, they are absolutely in the middle of this thing right now. At 7-5, they are in the middle, in the thick of the playoff chase. But 4-8 since the trade deadline, when you thought, hey, we just swept the Rangers, we're adding pieces, we're going to play some of our best baseball going forward, and the absolute opposite has occurred. They've lost 2 out of every 3 games since the trade deadline, when they need to win now 2 out of every 3 games at least the rest of this season to even have a chance.
Not going well. 6.5 games back in the wild card, and we talked about it early. Like, yes, they're not mathematically eliminated yet, but I've pretty much written off this season officially, and at this point it's a matter of, can this team even finish the season 500?
One thing that I am frustrated with, and I will say that I've been a Bob Melvin defender, but I am frustrated that they haven't done a little bit more shaking up of the lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr., I know I think he went like 5 for 13 in the Diamondback series, but it's singles. He's not driving the ball as much. He had a single last night, went the other way.
Are you just switching up those first 5 guys in the lineup and who's hitting?
I wouldn't mind. I mean, at some point, is there any? Leave Ha-Seong Kim in the leadoff. Is there any perfect lineup right now? Of course not for the Padres. You are really just.
I think we're just talking about shuffling the 2, 3, and 4 spots around, and I don't think that's going to make all the difference in the world right now.
The expression is rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It really doesn't mean a ton, but it's baseball, and whatever changes your headspace a little bit. If Jake's had a really solid, if you want to move him up to second for a little bit and move everybody back another slot for a game or two, do something different. Just change it up just a little bit going forward, because what you're doing right now has not been resulting in offense. I don't care if Xander Bogaerts hates hitting second. Let's try him. His average has been pretty good since the All-Star break, but he's not driving the ball. He's not coming in through in the clutch situations. So maybe you bat him second and you move everybody else down a slot. I'm just saying, try something different, because it's almost, to me, it's defeatist when I see that lineup coming out and it's the exact same as last night, except you're switching the catchers again. It's hard to feel like there's going to be any different result in the game. Just having a different lineup makes me think, well, maybe the result will be different tonight because the lineup's a little bit different. But when you keep losing and the lineup is exactly the same, I can't help but think that the result is going to be exactly the same. Is that fair? I know that's not my usual logical brain speaking.
Yeah,
Always put your best lineup forward.
I'm not fully on board with that. I mean, we're still talking about the same 9 guys in the lineup, and if you're not going to do anything drastic, if it's a matter of, let's try Tatis third instead of hitting second, I don't know that that's going to make so much of a difference. But at this point, I'll try anything. I guess.
I'm not saying, go full 1970s manager who pulls his lineup out of a hat when
Sanchez,
they've lost 4 in a row.
Grisham.
And it's just completely random based on, nothing at all. But, just exactly the same every day. It has not been working. So maybe we try something different. I will certainly say that it's more of an emotional-based argument than I'll usually make. It's more of a gut argument than anything on any specific numbers that I think they're doing wrong. But, I just, I'm fully expected to be the same lineup pretty much today and see if they can do it with Michael Wacha on the mound. All right, let's get to some headlines, Paulie. And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right.
That was the kindergarten boy right there asking for a "oh yeah."
All right, Benny, we will start off in the NFL. Saw a story from over the weekend. Oh, I love preseason stories like this. Let's see. Blake Group is the man's name, and he is a rookie kicker for the New Orleans Saints. And he had easily the best moment of his short NFL career so far. 1 game, a preseason game. He's a 24-year-old undrafted rookie, and he hit a 31-yard game-winning field goal as the clock expired on Sunday to
celebrity for a moment.
Yeah,
you get to be the big star of New Orleans for a couple hours that
Saints
night.
Beat Kansas City 26-24. It's an epic moment.
Beat the Super Bowl champs. It's even bigger.
And the celebrity feeling waned quickly for him. You get
no one bought him any drinks.
You get lifted up by your teammates, even in a preseason win. Everyone's excited. Everyone's happy.
No hurricanes in the French Quarter after the game.
The celebrity feeling for Blake Group, the rookie, says about an hour. He was mistaken by security as he was trying to leave the Superdome. They thought he was a fan. They didn't know who he was. He was leaving through the players' exit, and security said, wait, who are you? Dude, I'm the guy that just kicked the game-winning field goal like an hour ago. And he was, mistaken as a fan. He tweeted out following that, Step 1, get questioned walking onto the field pregame for not having credentials. Step 2, hit a game winner. Step 3, get stopped by security thinking I was a fan when trying to walk out the player exit. Stay humble.
Now, he just got stopped, though. He didn't get fully tackled like golfer Adam Hadwin did at the Canadian Open when he went to congratulate his friend Nick Taylor on the win.
I don't see anything about him getting laid out by security.
Absolutely laid out by security on the 18th green.
Think about it. Before the game, they go, sir, who are you? Like, do you have a press pass? Like, what are you doing on the field? No, I'm on the roster. Like, I'm one of the players. Kicks the game winner a couple hours later, and then an hour after the game winner, question.
I'm still going with Adam Hadwin, though. Rookie kicker on a 53-man roster. Okay, security. Your kicker doesn't look like a football player as much. I will give them a pass. Adam Hadwin's probably one of the 3 most famous Canadian golfers of all time, and security tackled him on the green at the Canadian Open.
Incredible. All right, let's go to baseball. Yesterday, this was a very funny moment in the San Francisco Giants game. I'll just play some of the audio here. The camera, this is just the audio, but the camera is focused on the San Francisco Giants bat boy, running out to retrieve the bats, maybe get a protective guard from one of the players, bring some balls
Wasn't
to the
one of those,
umpire.
like 12, 13-year-old bat boys that you're
Now,
used
San
to seeing.
Francisco's done that
either.
for a long time down the
That's true.
foul
They have
pole lines. They've had
senior
the
citizens
old
and,
guys, the old guys, the ball guys. So here's the audio from last night's broadcast.
Hey, there's our bat boy. You know who that is? That's Dave Fleming. Having the time of his life. He looks like he's having fun. There's Dave. He's not going to get a lot of rest. What, he lose a bet or something? Yeah, you finish last in fantasy football. You got to be a bet boy.
Unbelievable.
That would be if, like, Jesse Agler had to suit up and be the bat boy at a Padres game because
Giants
he lost his fantasy football league.
Giants broadcaster Dave Fleming, he finished last in fantasy football, I assume last season, and his punishment was he had to be the bat boy for the Giants yesterday. Unbelievable.
I think that is a perfect fantasy football punishment. I've seen leagues where you have to get like a tattoo or something like permanent, like a disfigurement if you lose your fantasy football league. It makes me not want to even play in a league like that if you're that serious about it. But honestly, I look like Dave was having the time of his life. That's almost a reward.
It's pretty cool
to get to be the bat boy for a game. Even if it is a little bit embarrassing, it would also be really cool to be down there. And I'd be willing to wear that one as a fantasy football punishment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was in full uniform, had the helmet and everything. Typically it's like I've seen a lot of like bumper stickers or license plate frames that you got to have for like a year if you lose and come in last place on your fantasy football league. I'm sure there's a lot more.
I'm curious.
A very wide range of punishments.
Let me throw it out to the YouTube chat, to social media, and to the phone lines. Only if you have like a gnarly story about what you or someone in your league had to do, and they actually did it because they finished last in fantasy football. Because it is fantasy football season. People are having their drafts already.
Yeah.
And they're setting up the rules for their league right now. We'll throw the ideas out there. The best and the worst fantasy football punishments, if you've got them for us. 833-288-0973. Get to some of those coming up in our next segment. Paul, you got one more story?
I do. Let's see here. Ben, do you ever use the term LOL when you're texting?
I'm not a big a user of the shortened LOL.
Laugh out loud.
I know what it means. Yeah. I sometimes use IMO in my opinion.
But if somebody says something funny,
I usually go ha-ha.
Ha-ha. Okay.
I write ha-ha. Or I just use the now pre-programmed, like on a text where I can just push the button and then there's a ha-ha option.
Right.
I just go with that
reaction.
now. Yeah, the reaction button.
Well, it turns out that LOL is now for the olds. It's being moved on from by the younger generation.
LOLD. Oh, old.
Stop. I'm sorry. So LOL looks like the first time it was used was in the early 1980s. A guy in Canada named Wayne Pearson kind of originated the shorthand laugh out loud. And the time has come where now kids today think that LOL is cringy. It means you're old. They don't use that, which I can understand. They've got their own lingo. The New York Times did a story on how LOL is dead and that the youths have started using the acronym IJBOL.
IJBOL.
And
can I try to figure it out?
We just said that wrong. Like those are the words. Those are the letters.
Those are the letters.
But you're supposed to say it as Eej Bowl.
Eej Bowl.
IJBOL.
I just blew out loud. Now I just
Whoa. Settle down.
Sorry. What is it?
I just burst out laughing.
Burst out laughing. Eej Bowl.
It's been around for a while, but I guess the younger Gen Z group they think that LOL or LMAO, LMFAO, those are old, outdated terms.
What about
and they're going with Each
ROFL?
Bowl. I think that's even older.
That's rolling on the floor laughing,
Yes,
right? Or
yes.
could be ROTFL if you use the T.
Right.
What is LLZ?
Lols.
Lols. What does the Z mean?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. It's just a Z at the end.
Each Bowl. I had never heard that.
Each Bowl?
I had never seen that in text at all, but I just burst out laughing. According to the youngs, the youths, the Gen Zers out there, that's what they're rolling with these days, according to the New York Times.
Iowa State faced North Carolina in the Each Bowl last year. All right, that's our Reindl Report. If you have a fantasy football punishment, though, that a terrible one, a great one, ideas for everybody, it is that season. Got a couple of minutes if you want to share them. 833-288-0973. I'm curious as to what you set up in your leagues out there as we get to that time of the year. And then Woodsy's going to call in at the bottom of the hour, so we'll find out how kindergarten is going on day one. All ahead here with Ben and Woods after a check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan. Seeing some submissions on your fantasy football league punishments here as we set up the leagues, inspired by Giants broadcaster Dave Fleming having to serve as the bat boy yesterday for losing last season's fantasy football league. I assume that was Giants employees centric in their league, and very appropriate and creative punishment, I thought, for a fantasy football. Like getting a tattoo, no way. You got to be more creative and less permanent than that in your punishments for fantasy football leagues. Let's see. We had some on the chat jumped in. Brock said there was an old radio station in the 80s, Mark and Brian. They said one year their worst fantasy football record, the payoff was having to write It's a Small World the entire 4-hour show.
God.
I think that's underrated and how miserable that would be. It's
Yeah,
I
you
actually
you're like, I can handle that.
on a hot day, if you're at Disneyland, one trip through is actually kind of nice. It's slow, it's air conditioned.
4 straight hours
But
though.
I mean, that would be like the worst airplane flight ever. That'd be like flying to Chicago, but having to do it on a slow boat while that music plays incessantly. That'd be horrible.
Ooh.
It'd be absolutely horrible.
That wouldn't be that's a good punishment actually. Sneaky good.
That is a tough one.
One angry sailor says one time the worst loser had to jump in the tank at Bass Pro.
All right, do they actually have like a tank of bass at a Bass Pro Shop? Like, can you go fishing? I know those stores are enormous. I've seen. We don't have them here, but it's like in Las Vegas. There's one. Like if you drive it on the 15, it looks like its own city.
Right.
Is the outdoor store.
It's like Walmart,
But is there?
Costco
Can you actually go
combined.
fishing in a Bass Pro store?
Apparently, they have a tank full of bass,
And you go fishing like there. You don't even have to go to the lake anymore. Hey, we're going to the Bass Pro store. What are you doing?
Well, that would
we're going
freak me
fishing
out.
for bass.
I can't imagine it's a incredibly large tank,
I don't know. Those stores are so humongous.
and you have to jump in there with those fish. I don't like that.
Tom says, make them run a milk mile. Is that where you have to chug milk as
Michael
you
says,
run?
yeah, you can't fish in them, but they do have massive tanks of fish.
You can't. They don't let people fish in them. That's that's got to be the next
Yeah, I'm
step.
interested in buying this rod. Can I try it out?
Yeah, let's just go fishing here inside the store. Those places are so ridiculously large. It's mind-boggling to me.
I've seen like a Cabela's. I think I've even been inside of a Cabela's, which is similar.
I've been an REI. Is that count at all? Not really. I'm not a great REI person. A lot of bicycling things that I have no running things.
What business? Would
climbing
you ever have
things.
at
I don't really
REI?
have any business. Like if they'll have a sale on like maybe like shoes or something at some point, I might check something out, but not my personal store that you go to. So if you want to join us, 833-2880. Actually, you know what? Let's hold off on the phone calls for a second because we need to keep the phone lines open because we're about to give away some Padres tickets.
Not right now.
Not right now, but in just a minute or two. Don't go anywhere because before the bottom of the hour, so like 3 minutes, we're going to give away some Padres tickets to tomorrow's Padres Orioles series finale. And it's a hoodie night. So, whether or not
I love that giveaway.
Whether or not you feel like the Padres can get back into it, you're going to want a hoodie this winter to wear. And the only way to get one is to go to the game tomorrow night. So be ready to win your tickets coming up momentarily here on Ben and Woods. So I'll keep the phone lines open for that because if we load them up with callers right now, we are going to have no lines for the contest.
No. So we're going to hear from Woodsy in our next segment. And I did see the picture. He posted a picture of the family. Bo has made it successfully to his first day of kindergarten.
I'm sure that there were some emotional moments that we'll hear about from Woods in just a couple of minutes.
Has he stopped crying? Do you think he'll answer the phone still in tears?
Yeah, no, he's okay. I mean, it's nice, but I mean, he's done the first day of preschool and, I mean, they're very similar. This one's a little bit bigger because he's going on to the big boy school, but, he'll find next year. I'm sure he'll take off for the first day of first grade. Now, what happens when they have different first days? Is he going to take another day off for Taylor's first day of preschool, like in a week or so? Or
I don't know.
Is that now we're starting
to take another vacation?
We're starting to get into maybe we need to kind of consolidate the first days of school for Woods going forward.
Something I got to figure out.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's
give away
just
these
do it. Let's give
tickets.
away these tickets. All right, now's the time to call in. Fifth caller, 833-288-0973. Fifth caller is going to win tickets to tomorrow night's Padres Orioles game. It is the hoodie night giveaway. Pretty cool. If you've been watching, you're seeing it on the television broadcast lately. First 40,000 fans in attendance receive a Padres hoodie. It's kind of a mixture of the home stripe with the brown, where the hoodie pocket, your hands go, the pouch in front. You can go to Padres.com/tickets. There are still tickets available for this homestand and that game coming up tomorrow. Giveaway games, a lot of them. We got a Ha-Sung Kim bobblehead coming up soon as well. So make sure you check it out. If you haven't been to a game, you can still get some pretty cool giveaways and still go to Petco Park on this last homestand of the season if you've been shut out so far. But right now, you can win 833-288-0973. We'll give those away, and then we'll come back with a check-in from Woods before we wrap things up here today on a Tuesday on 97.3 The Fan. Sour on the Fan is brought to you by South Norte Tequila Cocktails. Real tequila, real juice. Savor South Norte Premium Tequila Cocktails. Sip on a classic margarita. On authentic Paloma, pop the top of the Mexican Mule, or savor the Matador. Available at Stater Brothers, Ralph's, and more. Woods is probably craving a cocktail at this point. It's always a stressful morning on the first day of school. Maybe not as stressful as my first day of school, but always stressful.
You added a little bit of extra
I
stress
did.
to your first day.
We will chat with our co-host and friend Stephen Woods right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Kia of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto family, here's Kelly Tannick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change, a 15-minute instant drive-thru oil change. We are wrapping up our morning drive with several trouble spots, guys. One of them is a stalled vehicle on the East Street off-ramp from northbound 5. Now traveling on northbound 805 just before Mesa College. There is a collision involving a couple vehicles there in the center divide. Also crashed in Hillcrest on the Washington Street on-ramp to South 163. And northbound side of the 15, just past the 8th, collision over to the right shoulder. Stop by any of the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change centers. You don't have to get out of your car. It usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for discounts and locations nearest you. Valvoline Oil Change centers are open 7 days a week. I'm Kelly Danica with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Well, I talk to him almost every day, but rarely do I introduce him on the Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad Fan Hotline. But that's where we find the co-host of this program, Stephen Woods, today. Woodsy, good morning.
Long time, first time, guys. How we doing?
We're doing all right. You know, as 4-hour show. We've heard you once or twice say that's a long radio show in the morning. Did you know it's even longer when your co-host isn't here? But I'm sure you wouldn't have any knowledge of what that's like.
I do. No, I first of all, in the interest of keeping a good clubhouse that we have, I want to thank you guys for having my back. It's nice to work at a place where, if you need something, your teammates have your back. That's great. That's great. And I really, really appreciate being able to go today. And it was really special. And it was awesome. It was awesome. It was a little overwhelming, to be honest with you.
Any tears, you or Hannah?
I held it together until I got in my car. And then as soon as I got in the car, that was over. But I did. I held it together, walked him down to his class, got to meet his teacher and see his classroom. And there's a lot of kids that we knew from his preschool, and they're in different classes. He doesn't really have any buddies in his class yet. And I'm sure he will, but it was really special, man. And like I said, I held it together and was real, encouraging and happy. And then I got in the car and I just melted down. It just full on meltdown in the car before I left. But no, it was awesome, man. He was great. And, felt good, a little nervous. It's a little overwhelming going from preschool to the big school, and they had all the kids and parents and a bunch of different grades, and it's pretty nuts, man.
Now, could you imagine, instead of taking him and dropping him off and, big hugs on the first day of school, just putting him on the school bus and say, have a great day, and we'll see you when you get back at the end of the day? Because that's how it worked when I was in kindergarten. And this still traumatizes both my mother and me. 40 years later, because she promised me that there's no way I could be forgotten, that when I got home, it would be very simple, and she'd be waiting, and I'd get off the bus, and I'd be there. But for whatever reason, I don't remember what was going through my head. They either didn't stop or I was too scared to get off, and I ended up back at the bus yard alone on the bus at the end of the day with missing child at the end of my first day of kindergarten.
That is unbelievable. In the bus yard, sitting there clutching your backpack in your seat, going, So what happened? Did they have to call your mom?
I think someone had to call someone, and I had to be found like an hour or so later. I'm sure they were very frantic, and as my mother always says, she's never forgiven herself. It traumatized me for the next several years of elementary school, and
you weren't doing this on purpose. Like my mom, we would go shopping. We had like a department store, and I would hide, and it was my goal to hear on the loudspeaker "Hi, Paul, your mom is waiting for you at electronics." I would be like, "Yeah!"
Bro, That's some straight up devil S right there. There is no way, Paulie. No, man, it was. Ben, I can't imagine. I mean, I know your mom, and like, I know her. There's what in her head said, yeah, I think I'm going to put him on the bus.
But that's just what was done back then. All the kids were put on the bus, and they all got on the bus at the end of the day. And that's just how it was done at our school.
Did you hold that against your mother after? You're like, you said everything would be
probably,
fine.
yes. That's why it's been such a traumatic incident. Of course. I turned out okay, Mom. It's all right. I made it.
You did. That's incredible. Now, I slept. Now, Ben, I would get on the train in Chicago, and I would sleep
You miss your stop.
On the train, and I'd wake up in Evanston, which is like 20 stops.
You could have gone to Northwestern. You had another college right there.
Oh my God! Yeah, I mean, I went technically to Northwestern many times, but I'd pass out on the train and sleep through my stop. That happened, and that it was traumatic. But I was in my 20s, so it was fine. No, it was awesome, man. It was a great day, and the one thing I'm not worried about is Taylor. Taylor came and he was like, "Where's my backpack?" And he ran right on the playground, started playing with all the other kids.
Yeah, this is not your school, Taylor. You're not here yet.
No. He starts next Tuesday. I will not be taking off for that. He's already gone to the school, so yeah, no worries there. But I do appreciate it very much, man. It was a very special day and a little emotional, as you can imagine.
Speaking of emotional, why don't you chime in on what turned into one of our more contentious topics this morning? You might have heard Austin Hedges appearing on Chris Rose's podcast yesterday and really taking, I thought, Padres fans to task for their treatment of Eric Hosmer while he was a member of the San Diego Padres, saying you basically didn't appreciate what you had while he was there, and then you ran him out of town because you were just too mean to Eric Hosmer. And I defended Padres fans.
All your nerd stats like OPS.
For what I thought was a fairly obvious argument that when Eric Hosmer was with the Padres, his only deficiency, it wasn't his leadership, it was his production, especially considering how much he was being paid. And when he did produce in 2020, Padres were fantastic. That regular season, when he had a great 2020, so were the Padres. But when he didn't in 2021 and early in 2022 and in 2019, the Padres just weren't very good. And no amount of leadership or clubhouse presence can fix a lack of production on the field.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, ad nauseum, and we've talked to, tons and tons of players that all love Eric Hosmer. And I caught a little bit of Jesse Agler talking about, just because somebody's popular doesn't mean they're exactly the best fit. And listen, man, if somebody wanted to pay me $100 million, you guys can do anything you want to me. I was a staunch advocate for Eric Hosmer because I did believe he really played it perfectly. He had his best season right before his free agent season and parlayed 2 really good years in a row into a huge, huge deal here in San Diego. And like you said, never lived up to expectations. I did find it ironic that Austin Hedges was talking about nerd stats when, in fact, I mean, without nerd stats, that dude's probably out of a job, honestly. Like, he's a really good framer. And yeah, I mean, honestly, because offensively, I mean, he's one of the worst players historically in baseball history. I'm not being mean. That's just the way it is. And I took a little exception to that yesterday as well. And I think you guys made the point. I think everybody made the point. Well, if he's such a great leader, why doesn't anybody pick him up for literally nothing at this point? And if he brings that much value, and I have no doubt that those guys loved him. I know for a fact. Many people have said best teammate ever, best teammate of all time. But like you said, the production wasn't there. I didn't really see the effort. I'd heard many stories about the effort or lack thereof, the not wanting to put in extra work. It's funny. I was watching a preview last night of the Braves game, and they got in at like 3:00 in the morning, and they were asking Matt Olson, all right, Matt, you got in at 3:00 in the morning, and here you are, and you just got done taking infield drills with Ron Washington. How come? And he goes, I mean, that's what we do. We want to be the best, and that's the routine, and I'm not breaking that for anything. And I thought to myself, now that's not something that you hear out of the San Diego clubhouse. Then when Eric Hosmer was here, and really now either. I'm not saying these guys don't work hard, but that kind of stuff right there. I mean, and look what the Braves are doing, man. It's pretty incredible.
I think my point, Woodsy, is that you can't have it both ways, and I fully accept that Eric Hosmer brought a great deal to the clubhouse, but that can't overcome, a lack of talent and production. So the opposite also has to be true. You can't blame a lack of leadership in the clubhouse for not producing on the field. If good leadership doesn't automatically mean you play good, then even if you don't have great leadership, it shouldn't matter. You can still go out and be a good and productive team. One doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other. And if that's where you're searching for what's gone wrong with the San Diego Padres this season, then I think you're looking under the wrong rocks here for the culprit for this poor season.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I'll say is it's that chicken and the egg thing we've been talking about really all season. Does culture breed winning, or does winning breed culture? I tend to believe, honestly, based on some of the teams that are doing well right now, that maybe a lot of teams were surprised, or a lot of people were surprised they're doing well. I tend to believe that culture breeds winning. I do. And I think you see it in LA. I think you're seeing it in Baltimore. I think you're seeing it in Atlanta. It's hard to have one without the other. And I will say this, though. If everybody on this team had just been themselves this season, everybody, and I mean from Manny Machado down to Tim Hill, if everybody had just been what we expected them to be, nothing more, this team would be in a lot better shape. So,
agree.
Honestly,
they'd be a playoff team for sure.
Oh, unquestionably. So I don't know, man. I try not to let myself get in too dire of a headspace, because I'll tell you what went through my mind last night. I'm watching this team and I'm going, all right, man, you got to cut the head off, and you gotta completely redo the whole thing, and it's gonna suck. And they were talking about on the broadcast of the Braves game, they were talking about how teams have had to break it down, and be really, really bad for a couple of years. And I think Padres fans have been through that enough. And I certainly tip my hat to trying to do something different, but clearly it hasn't worked, really not a lot of winning seasons around here. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'll tell you, man, it was kind of a tough watch last night, Benny and Paulie. I'm watching for the second time in 10 days, a pitcher just absolutely take it to this veteran team. Both pitchers, Logan Gilbert and Grayson Rodriguez, drafted after Ryan Weathers in the same draft, dude. And that's what I was watching going, interesting. I mean, it is, both of those guys are studs with hugely bright futures. And Ryan Weathers is pitching in Miami now in a mop-up role.
I think you bring up a great point, though. Manny sometimes talks about the back of the baseball card, and I think you're 100% right. If everybody just played to their dead career averages, and that means not as good from Ha-Seong Kim and maybe not quite as spectacular from Blake Snell, but every other person didn't have a spectacular season, but just played dead flat to their back of the baseball card averages, Padres are probably 10 to 15 games better and clearly a playoff team. Now, does that absolve AJ Preller of some of the responsibility on this team? If you're a Moneyball guy and you saw the movie, hey, we need to buy 25 home runs and 72 RBIs and this much on base percentage. And that's what AJ Preller did. He put enough career average and OBP and OPS and ERA. He put enough of that onto the diamond this year where it should have been a playoff team. So what went wrong, and then who is responsible for the fact that it didn't go right? I know a lot of people will point at the manager. I still have a hard time believing that this is Bob Melvin's fault, which brings us back to the $1 million question, and the one that I don't have an answer for is, how do you fix it this offseason? How do you fix it?
It's a great question. And if I knew the answer, I would not be working on Ben and Woods. I would be sitting down at Petco Park right now working on said plan. But I do think that, we talk about culture, we talk about chemistry, we talk about camaraderie, we talk about playing for each other, having each other's back. I think there's a severe lack of that in the Padres clubhouse, and I think you could point to 4 or 5 guys. It's not just one person; it's not 2 people. And I think if everybody would kind of put their egos aside and talk about maybe next season, hey man, it's all about wins. That's it. Nobody cares what they get. We just go out and play. We have fun. We love each other. You can fight with your brothers all the time. I mean, we fight all the time. I mean, the mics turn off and we're still talking about what we just talked about in a heated manner. But that doesn't mean I don't love you, and that doesn't mean I wouldn't do anything for you. I just think the camaraderie of this team has been pretty rough, and I don't know. I think that would probably be the first thing I looked at is a culture issue, a camaraderie issue, and just a lot of egos in the room, man. And which I get, it's hard. I mean, I love that you can't play that game without an ego. You just can't.
Yeah,
and my rebuttal,
especially at that level, superstar level.
At that level.
My rebuttal to that, of course, is, hey, we need guys to go out and be winning team players. Yeah, absolutely. But hey, when I put together a winning team, it involves Juan Soto and Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. going out and being superstars who get the lion's share of the accolades and the all-star appearances and the MVP votes. You need to go out and be an absolute stud and put up individual huge numbers to be a good team baseball player.
Yeah, while also playing for your teammates.
Yeah,
I know it's possible because I see how they're doing it in Atlanta, and it's not just one guy. They don't have just Acuna. I mean, Matt Olson is a superstar. Riley is a superstar. Some of their pitchers are superstars. Like, it can be done. The Dodgers seemingly do it every year until October, but it can be done. Mookie Betts is a superstar. Freddie Freeman, a superstar. Clayton Kershaw, a superstar. It's something about.
But you think they don't have some egos to their superstardom? Of course they do. Of course they do.
You cannot be a superstar without an ego. You just can't. You have to have it in that game because you fail 7 out of 10 times, and every 10 at bats you're going to fail 7 times. So you have to have the confidence and the ego to say, no, they're not better than me. They got lucky. So. Benny, I don't know. I mean,
they seem to wear it, especially with the Braves and the Dodgers. They seem to wear it better than the Padres do somehow. And I don't even know how to explain that. But when the Padres say, hey, Manny Machado, look at the back of my card, and I know I'm going to get mine, we read it as, oh, come on, Manny, let's go. You're not doing it. When the other guys do it because their teams are winning, you're like, yes, that's how my superstar needs to act. That's the kind of attitude he needs to have.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think you're right and I'm right. I think we're both right. I think that there needs to be a serious look at the chasms that are so clearly there. It's just so obvious when you watch this team. And even last night, I'm not saying that anybody quit last night. I'm just saying it was a regular, normal baseball game, and luckily it was like 2.5 hours long, and they let us all get to bed at a decent hour and didn't drag the thing out. But it's kind of what I expected, to be honest with you. I just kind of expected that last night, and really kind of expecting that the rest of the year. I do think the playoff ship has sailed. I do, and it's a real bummer. It's kind of hard to come to grips with, but I think that's where we are today, man. So we can watch and we'll see what happens tonight, and I'll be back in tomorrow. We can talk about it then, but I do thank you guys very much for letting me have that experience today with my little guy.
Well, thank you for calling in. That's what I missed, us disagreeing, but both being right at the same time. That's what makes this show magic.
Well, and it's also, it's symptomatic of the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be way more than 2, 4, 5, 7 things.
All right. He knows that the music means it's time to be quiet and let us wrap up the show. We'll see you tomorrow, Woodsy. On our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. Paulie, great job today as always. We got Coach and Braden coming up next. More on a Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long.